All right, Brent, welcome back.
Thank you.
Man, I'm happy that you're here, bro. That first for those of you who don't know, he was the first. You were the first guest on the inaugural podcast, which actually is the highest performing episode. And I got messages that said like, "Hey, man, I could tell this podcast is going to be a home run," and they were just people are blown away because you provided so much information and it touched so many places with different people that it just hit so many people. I got so many messages on. Did I tell you this? That I got a lot of messages on social media.
No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, man! I got hit with people contemplating suicide, or they
That
had
happens.
to, and strangers, a bunch of thank yous, just all kinds of stuff. And yeah, but go ahead.
That's no, that's great. It is what happens. So, in my past work in the mental health field, we used to do demonstrations. I say demonstrations, more presentations about suicide, and then we would always have to bring extra practitioners along because right after you do the discussion, a lot of kids would start coming forward and go, "Well, I've actually had these feelings, and I haven't been sharing them with anybody, but you've normalized them now." And I feel good. So, well, I'm glad that some of that gets out. And I feel like the month we did it, I don't remember when it was, but I feel like it was Mental Health Awareness Month, which is
Yes.
So,
Yes, I remember you brought that up, and I was like, "Is it?"
yeah.
Yeah, which is ironic because you know what? I'm about to say every month should be Mental Health Month because I've come to realize after starting this podcast that a lot of people are struggling with. I mean, dude, people have opened up to me, and I've made new friends through this podcast. The most horrific crap. I'm calling it crap because it's crap. Not that it's devaluing it, but it's bad. It's so bad. Like unimaginable things that I didn't think that like an adult would do to a child, and think that's the ones that hit me the hardest.
Yeah, and that's part of I had worked in conjunction with CPS or DCFS, the Children's Protection, for many years. And so I'm used to hearing the stories, but I had to get out because it can become very overwhelming very quickly to see the neglect, abuse, all those sorts of things that go on. And it goes on in our society, and you just never know walking around, that this is where, but a lot of those kids, unfortunately, do end up in our correctional facilities.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think it's what is it? Episode 3 or 4 of this podcast. I brought on a guy named Sam Lewis, and Sam Lewis is a convicted murderer from killing someone through gangs, and he started talking about his mental health, and he said that was the key to not just getting over that hump of there was a spirituality piece. He became a Christian, but you still have the trauma in there. And he says that the therapist in prison helped him get over, just to deal with it at peace. But it also helps with the transition of being able to go from being institutionalized to, living in the regular world, which I could not imagine because, I mean, we kind of got an idea after we were on lockdown for COVID. And then then you're walking around the store and you're like, is this real life? Oh yeah, I forgot. And if someone coughed, you kind of look at them like you that's attempted murder right there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he was talking about it, and it was pretty deep, dude. Like it's surprising. And one other thing too, the brain, the mind. I've come to realize it's very malleable, but in a good way, but also in a bad way.
Yes, the pathways. So there's a whole school of therapy, attachment theory, and it's also a style, but I wouldn't do it justice. It's a tricky style of doing therapy, but the idea is that from 0 to 2, our brain is growing the most, and that's where the formation of all our pathways happen, and a lot of our limbic system, which is our response to fight, flight, freeze, fawn. That all gets built then, And if you don't have a caretaker who is stable and with you through your issues and then the like, if you have an unstable caretaker, and there's different styles of unstable, that this is going to carry with you for a long time until you untangle that mess, if you untangle it.
Yeah, you know what? I have a few questions I want to hit you with.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
I'm ready.
You just reminded me of something going through stuff. I've been doing a lot of research online, and you know how that goes, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have cancer because I have a scratch on my arm. But
Yes, everyone, what I will say about research online, we see it trend in mental health, and then we have to deal with it at the institutional levels. Everyone right now goes on to TikTok and thinks that they are on the autism spectrum. And so they come in, I need to get tested. And we go, well, what would change in your life if we did test you? What would happen if you did get that diagnosis? I mean, that's one of the things. But we definitely see once something picks up a little bit, that everybody goes online, does research, and they go, that's me. I'm a narcissist. I'm a borderline personality. I'm I have autism. So be careful.
I
Yes.
have a, oh crap, I knew a fancy one names. Munchausen's by
By
proxy. No, well, it's crazy you're saying that, man, because there's some, nothing against women, but I know a few women, they're athletes, and they started posting stuff about living with autism as an adult, and I was thinking, you have autism? Like, this is recent. That's why you said that. I got some thinking.
Okay.
Autism's contagious, and we need to let the world know.
I know, and I'm like, right now in my brain, I'm going, okay, this is being recorded, and so I have to be careful. And I've presented as a mental health professional, but
you can't hit timeout on it and just kind of
self-diagnosis. And I don't know these people, so I'm not saying that they haven't been diagnosed. But self-diagnosis is not a form of diagnosis. You would need to go through the proper steps of getting psychological testing. And I think it's very expensive to do that if you're doing that on your own. Most insurance companies aren't going to want to pay to get, let's say you're a successful bodybuilder, you've had a job, you have relationships, the insurance company is going to say, why am I going to pay a couple $1,000s for you to go take some tests? What exactly is going to change about your treatment plan, about the form of treatment you get in therapy? Like, how is this going to help us? There's no medication for autism, so it's not going to qualify you for medication. So, these people, I'm going, so you paid out of pocket to hear this? Or like, how did you get to this diagnosis? Now, if you've had it, had it your whole life, understandable. Also, if they're younger, the schools have gotten much better at picking this up. So they would have had an IEP, an individualized education plan. Maybe their developmental pediatrician would have caught it. So I'm not saying they're not, but I am saying right now there are trends in diagnosing. 15 years ago, everybody had ADHD.
Yes.
And now,
yes.
Right, and luckily that one comes with a stimulant, so everyone had that.
Everyone got a little bit of meth. They got a little bump.
Yep, and then sorry for hitting the table, severe anxiety, which came with a nice medicine along with it, the Xanax. And then now we're on to autism. People have these things. I'm not saying they don't, but you need to see a professional. A professional needs to do testing. And we cannot use a TikTok professional or one of those tests online that you go, am I autistic? And it's like a clickbait, and you click on it and asks you like 6 questions, and then it goes, yes, you are.
Or a former Chipotle employee who's now a life coach telling you your autism on TikTok. Right? Man. That right there.
So there is no such thing as a life coach, while at the same time there is such thing as a life coach. And what I'm saying about this is there is no state legal designation. So right now you are a life coach. I am a life coach. My daughter at 4 years old, she is a life coach. So be careful out there when you're seeking help. The state has designations and regulations for things like saying you're a psychotherapist, right, or a therapist. Yeah. You have to be an LMFT, LCSW, LPC, something to that extent. So to say you're a psychologist, you have to have an education. Yep, and you have to have gone through internships, testing, and it's all. And for the rest of the time, I have to keep my license. I have to take continuing education, all that. With life coaches, there are these external companies that'll certify you, but they're not. It's not state run. They're not doing background checks, and there's no. I can sue somebody, or I can't personally, but I could report someone to the board, and it would be illegal if they on their website said they were a therapist, and they're not. That is not legal to do. I can't do that with a life coach. Anyone can say they're a life coach. So I'm not saying there's not good life coaches out there. There's not good career coaches, and not like just because the state does something doesn't mean that it's good. But at the same time, we need to be careful with Chipotle worker life coaches.
Yeah, the life coaches I've noticed, because that's actually something people told me I should go into. Hey, you should be a life coach. So I looked into it, and I have a formal education, undergrad and graduate school degrees, and different licenses actually for teaching. Not to brag, but to brag, I have 6 different subject matter licenses to teach in the state of California. And when I was looking at it, I was like, what the hell? Like there could be, like, say me, Kenny Tenney, life coach, and then I'll have another program where you can be certified to be a life coach under me. I was thinking, what is this, like martial arts? Like you can get your black belt under me, and that appears to be the way. There are large organizations, but to be a part of it, there's not really much psychological training. It's more in the method of, I don't even know. There's like these general modalities of how to maybe listen and address things generally. But I don't think they could deal with a crisis or, when it's a real problem, or diagnose anything.
Well, and they may not do that. And there's definitely a lane for them, for people who need organizational help, for instance. I need to get my career back. I'm not having mental health issues around my career, but I'd like to create a plan on how to do that. I'd like to create a plan on how to meet a partner. I'd like to create a plan. That's definitely well within the scope of somebody who's not a therapist, but mental health crises, suicidality, severe depression, severe anxiety, all those issues, a professional would be best, because they'll know also when it's outside of their own scope that they have to refer it to a higher level of care. But I am a certified psychic, though, and that's certified.
You're certified?
Oh, I'm certified.
Wait, no. That's actually.
I'm joking, by the way. But I can do a reading for you if you'd like.
Yeah, dude. I have a not torn on the psychics. Before you do my reading, yes, I would like one. I'd like one, because I know that you. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're a man of science,
Yes,
right?
I am very much a man of science.
Okay, so I'm guessing you're doing some kind of scientific based thing on me. But I just want to point something out. I used to be in a relationship with a woman that would call psychics, and I used to have these discussions with her about it. She's like, "No, but it was dead on," or they knew that I was going through a lot and this and that. And I think that you have 2 schools of psychics. You have ones that are probably doing what you're about to do to me, but then there's other ones, I think, worship or like have some kind of there's a spiritual piece. How do you feel about spirituality?
I have my degree in religion from undergrad, but I struggle with that idea, and I don't think I can. I think I'm struggling so much with it, I wouldn't want to speak on it.
I mean, do you believe in ghosts?
No.
So like, say,
why don't we see ghosts who are wearing clothes from 2001? Why aren't like ghosts singing Soulja Boy? It's always like an 1800s ghost.
Yeah, and on the plantations, it's never the pissed off slaves who had a screwed life. It's always the plantation owner. Yeah, that I get that, but yeah. No, that's a whole nother wormhole, because I think there has been situations where there's a movie. Okay, I got to say 2 things. Well, one, there's a movie that I've shared with my friends, and I believe that I'm more of a logical thinker, but I do believe in God, right? And it's a long story. However, there's a movie that just came out on Netflix called Nefarious. Have you heard of Nefarious?
Yeah, I've scrolled by it. I haven't clicked on it.
Dude, watch that. And I'm just going to give a summary. I'm going to give a Blockbuster video case summary that's an old school reference for young people listening. is basically a man whose death sentence has been
Commuted?
not commuted. What's it called when it's stayed
Okay.
until they figure out what's going on with his mental health, because his previous psychiatrist had concluded that he's insane, right?
Right.
And he can't be executed. So, but then that psychiatrist died. So they bring in this other psychiatrist, and this guy's trying to wrap it up. And the governor's like, let me know. And I need to know about an hour before the execution time. So the movie is literally a dialogue like this, but in a prison setting, right?
Okay.
And the psychiatrist is an atheist. And this guy, right off the jump, you can see this in the previews, he tells him, listen, I'm possessed by some demons. And the guy was like, yeah, you are insane, right? But the thing is, the movie goes into, it's basically a demon-possessed man trying to convince an atheist psychiatrist that there is a God. Because if there is a God, I mean, there's a devil. And if there's a devil, there's demons. I'm a demon. Execute me. I know what I did. I killed those people on purpose. And he's trying to get executed.
Yeah, I see it.
It's a very interesting philosophical and theological discussion that they have.
When you say demon possessed, I'll give you a story. It reminds me of somebody I knew growing up, and I don't want to note the relationship, but they used to call everybody demon possessed, and they had lost touch with reality, and eventually they were getting foreclosed on their house, and they ended up harming the sheriffs. One died, who came out to take them out of their home. So I hear that term, and it's like triggering when we talk about trauma. When I hear the word demon possessed, because it was always like they're demon possessed.
Well, I mean, that person obviously had a mental health issue.
Right. This is different from the movie.
Like I had a guest, like 2 guests ago. Her name's Senya. She grew up in the Dominican Republic, and her dad was a warlock that practiced witchcraft.
Nice.
And she's seen people get demon possessed, and her dad gave her over. You know, like how you dedicate your baby, like at the church, right?
Yes.
Her dad dedicated her to Satan, and she's now become a Christian and has changed. But she's seen things in my own little. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I went to seminary.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just sharing. But I went to seminary, and during that time, for about 3 years, I worked as an evangelist. And I've watched things like that occur. And so it kind of makes me, I don't think I'm crazy, but I've seen things, you know? And so, but the reason why I was asking you is, in my opinion, which is worth nothing, is that some of the psychics may be tapping into that source. But I think the majority of them are not even just psychics, even fake healers. You know, those preachers, like televangelists.
Yeah, I'm related to a fake healer. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Like,
and believes that they can like heal people from cancer and all that
with stones and crystals and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like end of life. I don't feel they're doing anything fair to the families. You know, these are desperate people who are looking for anything, and she charges a lot of money to them for
Well, healer, has she healed anyone? Has anyone says, hey, I'm stage 4 colon cancer, and this is the woman brought me back from the brink with the crystal and the special tea she made?
I don't know enough. I try and distance myself from it. But I do know, just having left a large-scale hospital for a meeting, that we've never had anyone in the ICU and called in for crystals stat. And none of the family members, oils. Yeah, none of the families are coming in and doing that. But I agree. Psychics. We were today. You know, before the show, you kind of riff a little bit. What are we going to talk about? And we're going to talk about cognitive biases.
Hey! Don't give them a peek under the hood, dude. Don't give them a look behind the curtain.
Wall here. The psychics are an interesting cognitive bias because
he said breaking the fourth wall.
What begins to happen with this is if I make 30 predictions and 3 of them come true and they were important predictions, then you almost immediately forget the other 27, right?
Yeah.
The ones that were wrong. And there are ways that I can limit this. So, in my psychic reading right now, I feel
Wait, hold on. Are you starting my reading?
I'm starting your reading.
Okay, let's do it. Do I gotta stick my hands out or anything?
No, wait, okay, I got it. So, in your life, you've had someone, and by the way, I don't know the names of people in your life, but an important man whose name I want to say starts with a J or an S, who's had a strong impact on you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him.
He's helped me out a lot in my life as an adult. He's actually been my business partner, and he's the landlord of this studio, of this place, of the studio.
Holy what? Did I just do that? Wait a second.
You're amazing.
There's and then there's another thing is I picture him maybe kind of over. He used to be in shape. Maybe he's a little older. Maybe overweight now. I don't know, but I'm not sure on that one. I'm picking up a lot of different things. Have you had anybody? But immediately my mind jumped to: is there someone in your life like had pain? I'm just picturing someone who's gone who had pain here, or here. And it's just because, like, when I was talking to you, I just got pain in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone important who had maybe like a heart attack or like a blood issue, like a stroke.
Yeah, that's it. You're good, man. You're good. I'm gonna name this episode "The Amazing."
Yes,
Brent. But one, going back to the close person who used to be he actually my friend. His name is Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to be a high-level soccer player in college, and he injured his hip and kind of went and he's getting a little. I mean, he tries to stay active. He does triathlons now, but I think he's out of shape right now. I saw him. No offense, Steve. I think you got a little tummy on you. I'm judging you.
I could feel the energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and the chest. My dad died of a heart attack.
I could feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, but
wait, hold on. You forgot to ask me for money before you move on.
Yeah, and
I need more money to get clarity.
You do, and you've got some important decisions. And part of the reason you need clarity is right now you feel like your life is kind of at a place where you've got a lot of important decisions to make. Mm-hmm. And if you make the wrong decision, I mean, there could be some very catastrophic things that happen to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I picked up on you something that I think is the most important thing about you, which is you have very big dreams for yourself that you don't share with anybody. Maybe with one or two people, but it's almost like you're afraid to say them to people because people might even laugh. People might think those are so big.
Yeah. You're hitting a home run here. You're how many statements have you made so far? Is that 5?
Yeah, 5.
You're 5 for 5.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am actually in the point of making some big decisions, and there are things that I don't even want to say on the podcast because there are things that I believe that I've been called to do. One of them is from God, actually called it spiritually. And yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. So let's talk about what I did. I'm not a psychic. I don't know anything, but J and S are common first letters for male names. And almost everyone has a John or Stephen or something in their life, right? Mm. Jeremy, Joseph, Sam, and the list keeps going. Scott. And then heart attacks and strokes are pretty much going to kill everyone in America.
So someone knows someone, or someone had an anxiety attack. And
So, we go with that. But then the last one is a statement about just all of humanity. So what psychics do is they do a couple tricks. I'll give 30 statements. There'll be 3, and 3 that hit you remember the most. You immediately forget the 27 that didn't hit. And then they make statements about humanity, things that are part of the human experience. So the part where I spoke about a dream, almost everyone walking around, that's why the lottery stays in business, is we have dreams. Many of us dream of not working. And so we have these dreams, and we don't share them with people because it may sound narcissistic or something to that extent, may sound crazy. But there's another reason that we don't talk about them also is because we may not think we'll accomplish them, and I want to talk about that in a second. But those are called Barnum statements. Barnum statements are statements that are true it comes from P.T. Barnum,
Oh, he used to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's these called cold reads. I also, real quick, I had a friend who was a psychic for Miss Cleo, and
I remember Miss
I think,
Cleo.
yeah, man, call me now. And he was not psychic. He had scripts he would read, and he said it was
No.
I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. There were real psychics on that hotline, but just not him.
Him. Yeah.
And yeah, the scripts were pretty simple for men. When they'd call in, you just talk about money, like, oh, I see a lot of money in your future. You're having trouble with money. For women, it was love. And he said the best nights to work were like late Saturday night because people were drunk. They would call in. You'd start talking to them. They'd fall asleep, and then you were working because they didn't hang up the phone, and you're charging by the minute. So you would just sit there. He said I'd just sit there playing solitaire and listen to them snore, and I'd be making money.
I know it sounds very wrong, but as a young guy in my mindset when I was younger, that would have been an awesome job.
Oh yeah.
That would have been an awesome job.
Now it would be even better because like I could just play on my phone. But I wanted to talk about this dream thing because it's something that's important.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
No, you just can't jump off. You just can't like drop a bomb like that and go. Okay, can you just pause the dream thing? Yeah. So, a few things here with Barnum. Does anyone know how he developed this, or was he just an extrovert that kind of understood?
I don't know his story well. I did see the musical about his life, but I don't know about how he got to this.
Oh, no one trained him. He kind of, okay. Oh, you don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, would this fall into the category? Because I know it comes across as psychic. Actually did this to my friend Steve, his wife. I tricked her with this.
Right.
But it's mentalism.
Yes.
Would this be considered mentalism?
I feel like this is the lowest form of mentalism, but it probably is. Mentalism at the highest level, it's actually wild. You were talking about theology. So getting my degree in religion from UCLA, you have to take a bunch of theology courses on whether God does exist or not, and then under the philosophy heading, and you go through the arguments, the argument for unnecessary evil, all those sorts of things. And he was I think it was philosophy 2, which was like the first theology class. He was a mentalist, the teacher, and he did wild tricks where he would, it was maybe 200 people in the hall, and he would throw he wouldn't look at anybody, and he'd throw this ball over his shoulder, and someone would catch it, and he'd say, okay, throw it again. And then that person would just throw it randomly, and someone would catch it, and they'd say, all right, go outside. And that person would go outside, and when they went outside, or he would give them instructions. He'd say, okay, when you go outside, I want you to write the wildest sentence you could think of. And the person wrote, we can't see anything, can't hear anything. There's no microphones. The person goes outside of the hall, and then he has somebody knock on the door. He says, okay, come back in. And the guy comes back in, and the teacher, the professor, he begins to write this sentence on the wall. And it had something to do with elephants, like the elephant stands on its head or something like that. And as he's writing it, the person's back is to him writing it, so they can't see what he's writing. And then he has a third party come out and open the piece of paper, hold it up, and it was the same sentence. And he goes, I'm not psychic. He says, this is a trick. Uh-huh. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. He did a couple other tricks, too, that I was and I can't remember them all, but that was the most fun class I had. I wish I remember his name.
Yeah, see, stuff like that, I'm intrigued with mentalism. And what you just did, I'm gonna have to hit you up on some of the prompts because I enjoy that. I know a little bit, and I'm embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed, but I mean, just to keep it 100. It came from talking to women.
Yeah,
there's a way that there's general tendencies or paths of thought that certain women have that I could pick up on pretty quick, and I could just dissect and get in there. And a lot of the times, like in the past, people go, "Well, Kenny, how'd you get her?" And I understand her way of thinking and what to say and what she needs to hear.
Right.
And it's there's like profiles, but like going back to my friend Steve, his wife, there's a mentalist trick I learned actually online where I can give you a piece of paper and I'm like, you might even know this. Draw a shape, any shape you want, but don't show me. And you draw it.
Okay.
And then I go, okay. And I'm playing into this whole thing like I'm looking in their eyes. Even before they do the first one, I'm like, okay, draw another shape inside of that shape. No, around that shape. And around that shape, sorry. And they do that. And so
I think I picked up on the trick, but okay.
And then I go, well, there's hand prompts too. If you're watching videos, I'll do draw a shape.
Yeah.
You know, I'm drawing the shape with my hand.
Priming, they call it.
I'm priming them, but then there's common shapes that people could think of.
Yes.
And
rhomboid, rhombus, whatever it's called.
Dude, I had some goofy kids. I used to do this when I was teaching in East LA. I had a girl draw a flower. I go, that's not a shape, dude.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, it's not. But so what happens is that I go, did you draw this? And I'll open up something I drew. They go, holy crap. It's the exact same thing.
Well, first, I think I figured out a couple parts of this trick.
Uh-huh.
How many pockets do you have?
What do you mean?
When you're doing this trick, do you only have one sheet of paper?
Oh yeah, no. I'll write it right here, fold it, and leave it on the table. I do it all kinds of ways.
Okay, because there's a way to do this trick also where, you wear a shirt, a jacket, and pants, and then you have 5 or 6 options.
Oh.
And so then you go, oh, what did you draw or whatever, and then you go, that's funny. I had already drawn it. You draw from the pocket that you remember it has the thing. Right, so it's always dramatic too.
Yeah, I have to prime people though, and I tried this with first I tried to trick my friend Steve, and this is his wife, but she wasn't in. We were in the house, but it was like a get together, and she wasn't there. I mean, she was there, but in another part of the house. I tried to do it on him, but one thing it doesn't work on is people who are like, I would say, I'll use a court term, a combative witness.
Yeah, stubborn.
I was like, listen, draw the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't go, nah, I'm going to draw the third thing that comes to my mind. I said, draw the first. And so like my friend, he drew a circle inside of a circle. I said, dude, who would even think to write a circle? That throws me off. Yes. But that's a definite combative. Yeah.
Correct. And that's one of the outs that they use for psychics is when it doesn't work is you victim blame. It's not me who's wrong, it's you who's wrong. You're bad at being a psychic customer. I'm not bad as a psychic. So your energy is off. When they're doing a cold read and just stuff isn't landing because maybe somebody grew up in a different country, and so J isn't even a letter in their alphabet. I don't know if there's, but I'm sure there's alphabets where J is not a letter.
Is there a school for this? Because I'm telling you right now, I've seen a psychic on national television. Just remember back when we were younger, we'll just leave that time period, let people vague. There were psychics on TV. There was a guy. He was a Hollywood psychic. He would always talk to. He had a show
Dead
called
people.
Crossing Over. I can't remember.
Yeah,
his name.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I read a book debunking psychics, and they mentioned him a lot, and I can't remember his name either.
Well, if you go online and look him up, once you Crossing Over, that was a show. Then go online. He goes off on a woman for not agreeing with what he said. He turns to her and he goes, "You have an issue with someone in your family. A female, another female in your family is close."
No,
yeah.
I love all my family.
And she goes, "No." The woman goes. Like it was triggering, and you could tell he's reading her body language, her reaction, right? So
yeah,
he knows
those are the good psychics, yeah.
Yeah, so he's digging, and he goes, "You recently had a dispute with her, and it's a big one." And she goes, "Yeah, my mother-in-law." And she goes, Yes, your mother-in-law." And she goes, "Deep inside, your mother-in-law feels that you're a bitch." And this and that. And she goes, No. My mother-in-law, we actually are best of friends, but we had a disagreement, a big one. But no, we still get along. He goes, "No, she thinks you're a bitch and you don't know." Like, went on her, dude, on TV.
So that is an unprovable assertion at that moment.
Yeah.
Which psychics will do is you will create an unprovable assertion, which is deep down, she thinks you're a bitch. Because we can't prove it at that moment. She, especially during Crossing Over, I don't think cell phones were ubiquitous, so she couldn't have got her on the phone.
You can't prove it either way.
And then exactly, and then even if we did call and, "Do you think I'm a bitch?" and she goes, "No," and he would go, "She's lying to you." Right? Yeah. And so it's an unprovable assertion. And so psychics are great at kind of skewing people when these So when these situations come up, is saying, oh, no, but I am right. There's no way to prove me wrong. However, what we have to do is start to look at Occam's razor, which is, Occam's razor?
Yes, I've heard of it. My mind's going blank.
The simplest answer is usually the right answer.
Got it.
Right? Is it that everybody's lying to me and this one weird psychic dude who's making a bunch of money off being a psychic is right? Or is it actually that this guy who seems kind of like a phony is wrong and people do like me? So, there's a lot of trickery there with that. And I was saying good psychics also are very good at reading people. And so they will start to say something and watch people's reaction to it and then wipe it clean. They'll be like, you know what? I see somebody in your life who was maybe hurt in a war, and they're seeing you like, no. Hold a second. It's not coming through right. There's some kind of interference, and then they'll move forward into their next, and they're constantly pinging, and that goes back to what I was talking about. Is when you throw 30 things at the wall, 3 of them are going to stick, and you forget the process it took me to get there, which was me throwing out a bunch of wrong things and us acting like we went through a process to get to the truth. So at the end of it, you're like, dude, he said some amazing things. And it's like, well, yeah, he said 20 really not amazing things, watched you wince, and then used techniques to make it seem as though there was interference in the reading, you weren't being honest, the other people weren't being honest, whatever, all of that. And then this is how we get to the final ending, which is, your mother-in-law thinks you're a bitch. By the way, F that guy for trying to put a wedge in a relationship. So what if she believed him and went back and was like, man, this, and doesn't even say anything to her. And it's like, she thinks she's not a bitch. Like, F her. And this dude's just doing this for likes and all that. And good psychics too do a lot of research on you. Nowadays it's easy. If I'm going to call a psychic or contact a psychic, if you're not using a block number and VPNs and you have no social media presence, and if I'm a psychic and somebody calls me, then what do I? Okay, let me run their number. Who's it registered to? Well, let me go onto one of those websites where I look at everyone who's died in their life. Let me look up their name and see if there's news articles. Let me look at. And so when you walk in, now I'm like, okay, I can feel that, I feel like a very grounded person in you. Is your family from Kansas? And, oh my God.
Yeah, that actually happened to Matt Lauer on national television.
Oh, Matt Lauer's got to be the easiest guy to find information on.
Yeah, but it was something that he did not talk a lot about, but he did talk about it once or twice, and the psychic got it.
Yep.
Because he goes, Matt, is that young dude? He's popular now. He's a young psychic, blonde guy maybe.
Yeah, I don't keep up with the young psychics. I'm more of an old school psychic.
Old school,
guy.
yeah. Cleo.
Yeah, you gotta have an accent.
Dionne Warwick.
Oh, yeah, Psychic Friends Network, yeah.
Yeah, well, he was like, your dad, you can see this on YouTube, a clip of this. The guy's like, you lost someone special. And it was so pinpoint. It wasn't a feeler.
Yeah.
He goes, your dad. And he's talking to me. He's here with us right now. And he's telling me those moments on the boat fishing with you were very special. And Matt Lauer broke it down on the Today Show. And it was like, how did he know? And because Matt doesn't talk about his dad like that.
Yeah.
But then, there's internet sleuths.
Yes.
And they're like, yes, you did, you idiot. You wrote, when your dad died, not only in his eulogy, which was public, like in the newspaper or whatever, you spoke about it one time and said, dude, I really love fishing with my dad. That's one memory we've always had since I was a kid. And I was thinking, Matt, come on, bro.
Yeah.
You screwed up.
Yeah, you're so public. No psychic can say that they're coming with a blank slate.
Yeah. Like Penn says from Penn and Teller, you want to impress? Give us winning lottery numbers.
Yeah. Well, I have a certain family member, and I just don't really want to put her on blast because she's a supporter of me, so she'll listen to this podcast. But I've said it.
Too late.
I've said it. Okay, right. It's my sister. So I have 2 sisters, so now you got to pick which one. No, but
one of them I hate.
But her name rhymes with Gabrielle. But she, really believes in psychics. And so, I did the heart thing, but my mom suddenly died of a heart attack, right?
Oh.
It's been a year.
I'm sorry, bro.
Thank you. It's been very difficult, but my wife, my sister keeps going like, oh, I went to this psychic, I went to that psychic, and they told me this, and I was like, and she's been going to psychics forever, and I was like, where the fuck was the psychic that was going to tell you our mom was going to suddenly die? I mean, this is the biggest moment in your entire life, right? That like a defining moment in your life is the sudden death of your mom, who you were in an argument with and not talking to, right? And a psychic didn't think to mention it. Like these, you're going to meet when she's single, you're going to meet a handsome, dark-haired man or something. But it's like, you can't pick up on the giant issue that happens there in her life, or if, any of the other things, reporting an earthquake that kills people. I mean, that was, and she's like, well, they can't always. And I said, okay, well, at this point, you have made what's called the argument from faith. You don't want to base any of your beliefs in psychics in scientific reality. You just say, I have faith that they are correct. You can do that. That's fine. But don't then come back to me and say, well, they got this right and they got that right, because we don't want to play the science game now. You don't get to present me evidence about past things that they got right or future things they may have gotten right, because, again, I pointed out they missed the biggest thing in your life. So how did that happen, right? You've lost the they're actually scientifically, if you look at the data, they're correct on this, and this. Nope, they're not, because they missed the most important data.
Yeah, exactly. If they're forecasting weather,
yeah,
you didn't see the freaking tornado, the hurricane coming, but you could tell me that, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a light breeze on Thursday, or there was last Thursday.
9/11. I mean, where were all the psychics then?
Yeah.
They go, Nostradamus talked about, but that's also projection, right?
And it's vague.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't say, the address 417 Main Street, New York, Taliban, Osama bin Laden, whatever, right?
He's like fire, destruction.
Yeah.
Like,
oh man, yes.
We
a little bit of ideas of reference, we call it, right? As like you try and create references where they don't exist.
Or confirmation bias, right?
Yep, exactly.
Like Nostradamus is a psychic and he's accurate, so let's read what he has to say.
And then go find the evidence that it's correct.
I don't know why my brain made this connection. Then we'll jump to dreams.
Yes.
When you were talking about the psychics and how they behave, or the conversation you're having with your sister, it reminds me of Neil Tyson deGrasse, who is not a psychic, but he's a scientist,
right? And a wrestler.
Oh, and a wrestler. Okay. Oh, he was on the wrestling thing?
No, he was a good wrestler and went to Harvard on
oh, really?
And wrestled, in the Ivies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know that. I thought you meant like, sometimes the pro wrestling stuff they'll bring on
Donald Trump competed in WWE.
Yeah, or Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Because that'd be pretty funny to watch him out there. But I've noticed, I've followed him for a long time. I'm actually starting to lose, he's losing credibility with me.
He steps outside of his science and starts talking about other sciences. And it's like, dude, you're not an expert on all science.
Yeah, exactly. And he's even, yes, I'll leave it at, yes, I won't even go in that wormhole. But even in his area of science, I remember back in the day, he was very dogmatic, solid, like on things like, that's impossible. Because of science, or we already know because of science that the Earth is 13.5 billion years. The universe is 13.5 billion years old. There's no way around it. I'm sorry. What if you believe in religion? And he was very like that. And then you get the James Webb telescope and goes, uh-oh, it's wrong.
Yes.
And now he's like, of course, because with science, we're discovering, like, he will just roll with the punches as if he didn't, like, he could say current data shows this, but he's so like this is, this will never happen, or just very, what's it called, black and white?
Yeah.
Very black and white. And I started thinking like, and the one that the beginning of me not respecting him. I don't know if it's respecting what his opinions is when Elon Musk said, I'm gonna make a rocket that could take off and land back the same way it took off. And he went man, Neil Tyson ripped him, said, impossible. Do you know what NASA programmed? Do you know how many scientists that took and how much money it took to build the Apollo program? And he goes, in today's dollars and this and that, and just the propulsion itself, the level, he went into this whole thing. And freaking Elon was like, hold my coffee. Let me show you how it's done. And he does it. And I was like, okay, you lost with your little contradictions in science and now this, because first of all, you're an astrophysicist, but you're not a rocket scientist. It's like a general practice doctor commenting on brain surgery.
Yep.
But then now he got into an argument with recently with Bill Maher.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that. Because I work from the computer and I have stuff on my YouTube going. Yes. Yeah. And he got in an argument with Bill Maher, and he told Bill Maher that gender is a social construct. This is Neil Tyson deGrasse, scientist, saying this. And Bill Maher was like, I'm surprised to hear that from you, being a scientist. And he goes, well, it is. He goes, well, how do you, if you really think about it, how do you separate a male from a female? I tell the difference. He goes, penis, genitals, production of semen, ability to give birth.
Klinefelter syndrome. There are people who have XXY chromosomes, not just XY or XX. What we call intersexed or people. There's a whole slew of genetic mutations that actually create a. And by the way, he may make the argument, well, what you're still talking about is sex, not gender identification. And it sounds like he's getting into a war of words and trying to use absolutism instead of seeing the complexity of it.
And Bill Maher brought up the point, because he said what you said. That's Neil Tyson deGrasse said. And he goes, yeah, but that's a very small population. And what you're saying is that men and women should just use the same bathrooms. There's no, like you could so he goes, so you're saying one day a man could say I'm a woman and then wake up the next day and feel that I could be a man? I hope I didn't screw that up. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah. And Bill Maher's like, no. And I'm pretty liberal. He's like, no. He goes, no. And we're built different. Sports, our body are stronger. A man can't, like you saying that a woman could beat up Mike Tyson. I can't remember. They had this is Neil Tyson deGrasse with these arguments. And this is recent. And Bill Maher basically ate him up. And the argument you're saying about gender identity and actual gender, I think that's different. And that could be debated. But actual scientific, like gender or competing in sports or things like that. And there's one thing that Bill Maher just told him, it's like, dude, you've been going to these liberal colleges, these woke colleges too long now. Where he goes, your kids are having an influence on you. And Neil Tyson deGrasse, you can see he's uncomfortable. He's like rubbing the armrest on the chair, and he's like moving. He goes, well, I'm just saying, I mean, scientifically, we given these labels, and he goes, everything is labeled.
Right.
That's how we distinguish between just things in the world. You just can't say no more labels.
Yeah, then you say no more language.
I think that's the hole he went down. Yeah, so so when you're saying that, it reminds me of a psychic who's just of like Neil Tyson deGrasse, the two is flipping on it when they're wrong.
Yeah.
And go, like that old guy, I can't remember his name right now on Saturday Night Live. He used to be on the skits. I think he lied all the time. He goes, I meant to say that.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was acting. Or he'd make all these excuses up. Yeah, it reminds me of that. So
let's get back to your dreams.
Oh yeah.
Why haven't you accomplished them yet?
You want the truth, or you want me just to kind of role play?
If ever anybody says, "Do you want the truth?" does anyone opt for "Give me the bullshit"? I just want nothing but bullshit, all day.
No, that's not the only other option. Some people go, "Well, hey, just give me the light version."
Broad stroke it. Why you haven't accomplished it yet? Because I have the reason, and it starts with the letter P. But go ahead, and it's because I'm psychic. But go ahead.
If you call me a pussy on my own podcast, I know I'm joking. The real reason, I don't believe this anymore, but I don't believe this anymore. But honestly, I believed it up till about 8 months ago. I genuinely believed that I was cursed.
Yes, core belief systems. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's not even
Oh
a
no,
joke.
no, that's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
there's
No,
many,
no, no. I know you don't think. I'm just letting the listeners
yeah.
know that is a real. I really believe I was cursed.
So therapy, part of what we do is we look at core belief systems, and our goal is to try and identify where the core belief system comes from, demonstrate that core belief system that's limiting us is not in fact real, and then try and replace it with a real core belief system, which is maybe, okay, to say I'm cursed, right? We would want to say, no, you're not cursed. Bad things have happened, but good things have also happened. And you are a powerful person. It doesn't mean you can control everything, but if we have 3 buckets of things when it comes to control, we have, and I always say shit because it's usually shit that has to go into these buckets, which is the shit we can't control.
Yeah.
The shit we can control, and people tend to end there. But there's a third bucket called the shit we can kind of control.
Okay.
And so for the curse things, you're just going, man, so many things happen that's outside of my life my abilities to regulate my life. It's just bad shit happens to me. So, and you lump everything, like if we were weighting the buckets, you're really weighting heavily into the shit I can't control bucket.
Yeah.
And I would start to try and find moments in your life where we look at the shit that you can control and you have controlled, and the shit you can kind of control. And so you go, what's shit you can kind of control? Well, keeping your job. Keeping your job you can't fully control because there are market influences. If you're, let's say, what are
The crash, the economy crash of 2008.
Exactly. Or you're in an industry that's just dying, right? You sell cable subscriptions, right? Or something. I don't know. What?
No, you're those dudes. Remember before fax, those guys that rode bikes to.
Yeah. The couriers.
You're a courier.
You're a courier. Exactly. So some of the industries are just dying. That's out. An invention made them go away. If electric cars, and I don't know if electric cars will take off, but if they do take off, auto mechanic may just disappear, right? We just replace batteries and.
Or the nature of their job.
Right. So, but you can kind of control your job. You can control like how you present to your boss and studying the job and trying to learn from people and conflict resolution skills. And there's a lot of things you can do to control some aspects of your job, but you can't control it fully.
Got it.
Things you can control fully are the amount of effort you put into things, the attitude you have towards things, your responses to things. That's you can fully control. So for you, when we talk about core beliefs, you say, oh, it's funny, but I believe I'm cursed. And I go, no, there's a lot of people who have moments in their life that happen, things that happen to them, and they immediately throw it into the shit I can't control bucket. And what I'd like to do is not victim blame, but pull it into the shit I might be able to control in the future. Not in the past. Maybe as a kid, you didn't have the skill set to control some of these things, but in the future you might, because as an adult, we understand how to set boundaries with people. We understand how to communicate better and not put ourselves in situations where we are powerless, right? We leave jobs where we have a bad boss, those sorts of things. So, but I want to get to dreams because I said it starts with a P, and now, you know what? You're wrong. It's not because of your core beliefs, because that doesn't start with a P. There's 3 reasons that start with P. So you were wrong. It's we call these the 3 Ps: procrastination, perfectionism, and paralysis by analysis. Usually we call it analysis paralysis, but then that would be 2 Ps and an A, and that sucks.
Yes.
So let's start with procrastination.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. There's 2 types, and this is the part that people screw up. And the second type is the most nefarious, using the word from earlier today that you primed me with. And the first type is pretty easy to deal with. So deadline procrastination is very simple. Somebody gives you a deadline. When we were in school, we all
Wait, hold
had
on,
it.
but is this real? What you're saying?
Yes, this is real. This is not psychic stuff. This is real.
Okay, because you're saying the 3 Ps.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So this is real.
No, but you gave me a different reason, and then I was like, damn it doesn't fit in my model I was about to give you. So since it doesn't fit, I'm going to tell you screwed it up.
Okay.
But no, this is real. So procrastination. When we're in school, hey, you have this assignment due. Actually, I was in a meeting today, and they were doing an icebreaker exercise. And you talked about the peak of your week, the pit of your week, which is the bad part of your week, and then the horizon, or I forget what it was. Sorry, my bosses are listening. And the guy next to me said, well, the pit of my week was my kid coming to me with an assignment he had due tomorrow, and I had to stay up till midnight doing it with him, right? When he should have done it weeks ago. So we all had these assignments. And I had, the best way people learn is through stories. I went to a Catholic junior high school, and then I was going to a private Catholic high school. And in the summer going into the high school, they gave you 5 books that you had to read, and then there was going to be some testing assignments on them. And it made up like 20% of your English grade. And so before I even started school, I was like, oh my God, I got to do all this stuff for summer reading. And so that summer, say school starts September 2nd, summer gets out like June 15th. And, I go, okay, well, I know I have to do all this stuff, but it's still June. So, I'm not going to, summer hasn't really started. I need to give myself a break from school. I'll start in July. So July 1st rolls around. Well, summer doesn't really start till July 4th, right? Like that's the official kickoff of summer. So I'll start at July 5th. Oh, shit. July 5th is my sister's birthday, even though at the time I probably would have nothing to do with celebrating her birthday. But yeah, she was 18. I was 14. So it's not like I'd be out partying with her friends. It's my sister's birthday. I can't start that day. And every day I'd have an excuse. But what started to happen is there's this arc of panic. Is the closer you get to the deadline, the higher your anxiety gets. Oh, shit, I really got to do this. And you start reorganizing in your brain. You're going, oh, well, if I read this many chapters a day, this many days, then I'll get to, and so, I'm doing that math. Okay, I'll start July 15th. Oh, no, that's so-and-so's birthday. Can't start then. And every day I'd have an excuse, but then I'd be doing the mental math and my anxiety be going up. I would go out, and I would spend a lot of time at the beach that summer, almost every day. Every time I was out in the water, I'd be like, fuck, I need to get home and read. When I get home, I'll read. And then I'd get home and I'm so tired. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to read. And I would do this, and I kept doing it until the last week of August. I hadn't read a single page. In fact, I said, Mom, we got to go to the bookstore. Hadn't even bought the books. And this was back before Amazon and Borders, and these are small mom and pop. You had to go to like 3 or 4 bookstores to find these books. And then in the last week of my summer vacation, I read the books. Why did I read the books? Because panic set in, utter panic. The deadline was there. My anxiety kept going up because the deadline was getting closer. And then I had a panic attack. And the panic is actually energy, right? Panic, anxiety is energy. So it gave me the energy to get through that. That's why it's easy to deal with. Because in the end, you're going to do an equation. You're going to go, how much anxiety do I want to deal with? Once you hit your threshold, you're going to start working on it. So that's deadline. Does that make sense?
Yes. Wait, can I say something about that? When I was a kid, I went to military school in Italy, Naples, Italy. And it was very structured. You do your work. I didn't know anyone who did not do their work. We were very, lack of a better term, obedient.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to the United States, and I remember I was like in junior high, like 7th grade or something maybe 6th grade when I first, I don't know, whatever. But when I first saw this, where the teacher's like, hey, Brent, do you do your homework? And you're like, no. Dude, it gave me anxiety. I've never even seen that before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, crap, man. Like the add on to what you're saying with the procrastination. Some people even get the procrastination, screw it, I passed the deadline and let it go.
Oh, yeah. This is the, so I have a question. Is anxiety a good or bad thing?
Depends.
Okay, perfect answer. So we see anxiety on a spectrum. Anxiety can be good. How is anxiety good? Well, if I'm anxious about getting an F, I end up doing my work. If I'm scared of crossing the road without looking both ways, I look both ways and make sure I don't get hit. That level of anxiety, that's important to have. Because if you're on the other end of it, you're on the show Jackass and you're doing things that will get you killed. Not having enough anxiety, I know, is bad for you.
No, there's something I want to say, but remember I told you something I want to talk to you about, and I wasn't going to tell you what I was going to.
Oh, yeah.
Would it throw you off if I bring it up right now? I mean, once you finish your statement.
Yeah, let me finish my statement. And the only reason I want to finish is I think I screwed it up, which is not having enough anxiety, bad. You're Jackass. Having too much anxiety is bad because then you're the cat woman who never leaves her house and is afraid of bacteria and has OCD and agoraphobia.
Yes.
So what our goal is and what you're talking about is that those kids did not have enough anxiety. And people who don't have enough anxiety in our world either turn out to be Elon Musk because people tell him something's impossible. And
Wait, not enough or too
yeah,
much?
not enough.
Not enough. Got it.
Because people tell him you can't do that, and he does it anyway because he doesn't care about what other people say and consequences. But for the most part, that's one. The other million people, they end up not doing their homework, not paying their bills, not taking care of responsibilities in a life they don't want.
Yeah.
So that's deadline procrastination. So non-deadline is where we will go next, but you had a story you wanted to tell.
Well, no, it's actually I want your opinion on something. I've been going down different rabbit holes on YouTube. Have you heard of cave exploration and people that do that?
Spelunking.
Oh, spelunking.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you say it?
I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I know how to
spelunking.
spell it.
Yeah, spelunking. No, because there used to be a game I used to play, and that's why I learned that name, like
okay.
Splunker. Remember that on Atari
Yes.
or something? But I came across a story, and it just sent me down a rabbit hole. And I've been watching a lot of stories like this, but this is the main one. There's a guy in Utah that got stuck in an underground cave. It's called Nutty Butter.
Okay.
And the cave, he's the second person to get stuck in it, but he's the only one that's died. And the first person that got stuck in it was, you got to remember, it's open. I mean, not remember. Let me give you some background. It's a cave system, and there's some crawl areas, like those Hawaiian caves, right? But there's other parts for advanced cavers. And he wanted to go there. And one kid got stuck in there. The kid was 16. He was 5'4" and like 100 and, I don't know, maybe 130 pounds.
Okay.
He got stuck in the cave because these openings they go through are, they said, the size of the opening of your microwave or even smaller. They have to suck in their air and this and that. And they're doing hundreds of feet like this. This guy that got stuck in
Look
there.
at more rocks.
Huh?
To look at more rocks.
Yeah.
Go deeper and deeper, and I see the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this looks like the last one.
Yeah.
10 yards we just went.
It's real dark in here. Okay.
And so they're in there, and you get to a point where you can't turn around. You have to go all the way through to come back.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah, because you can't shimmy backwards properly.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, maybe it's possible, but
Then they would have done it. They wouldn't have died.
Yeah, I mean, but usually you can't.
Yeah.
I don't want someone to go, matter of fact, have you heard of John Jones, who this guy, and I'm like, okay, all right, there's an
he's
exception.
the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the golden child here. But this guy went through there. He's a caver, and he was in medical school, educated, married, right? He was there this is the day before Thanksgiving. He goes into the most advanced part. He gets into a hole, opening that's like, I think it's 8 by 12. He is 6'2" or 6'1", 200 pounds, and gets in there and goes. And what happens is there's a part where no one has ever went past. Like, it's unexplored. So they already kind of knew, like, up to here, it's this. First of all, I wouldn't have went in there anyways, right? And he goes to this other part, unexplored. It's a slope. And so he's first, advanced cavers, they go with their hands out.
Okay.
Because if you put them down and wiggle like a worm, you can't pull them up to do anything. Whatever way you go in, that's how you're going. And he goes, but he's 200 pounds, and it's a steep decline. He slides down that steep decline into a smaller hole that's even smaller, right? So, but it goes, think of what angle would that be? I don't even know what the hell that is. A 45? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. That angle, a slope still, to completely nose down in a hole. The hole was literally like 10 inches wide. 6 inches, because the weight and the speed. He tells his brother, don't come. He's in there with his brother-in-law. Don't come this way. Turn around, go back. And his brother-in-law sees his feet sticking out. All that's sticking out is his boots. So his brother-in-law, what he does is he goes, flips. There's areas where he could turn, where he came out, turned around, went in feet first. So he saw that slide, went down there and tried to help pull his brother out. But it's so tight, he tried to use his feet to grab feet to feet. Couldn't get him. Gets out. Sorry, I won't make the story long here because it's going to lead to a question. And we're going to think the whole time I'm watching this, I feel uneasy.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh my God. I mean, I thought a hyperbaric chamber was bad, or the MRI. This is a million times worse. And the guy is calm, saying, hey, I'm good. get help. I'm imagining myself going, just
Yeah.
losing it. They have to go get rescuers. There's cave rescue teams in Utah. So they get the cave rescue team. These mother effers, I don't mean to call them mother effers. These heroes. I'm going to take that back. That was a joke. Their guys are not mother effers. You guys are heroes. These guys went in there to unexplored cave, whittled down that little shaft. They only could fit one at a time. By this point, it was humid in there. The guy's still alive. They were pumping air into the cave. They brought down a line so he could talk to his wife. It's like, babe, the rescuers are here. I should be home. I can't wait to see you. I love you. He's talking to them, right? These guys, the rescuers are going, but they're limited on time because the human body is not designed to be upside down for long.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I didn't know this.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Too much blood on the brain or something?
Oh, everything. All
Yeah.
the weight hits the lungs. It starts pooling.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're not designed to be upside down. They said the longest a person clinically from research should be able to be upside down is around 23 hours.
Okay.
And then your body will start shutting down. And so, but that's completely upside down.
Right.
And so don't get stuck in those little back stretcher things.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of.
I thought of the 80s when they put those moon boots on and they'd hook on to the
yeah.
pull-up bars.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's stuck down there. And so the rescuers go, and they're rushing, putting these little pulley systems because that gives you more leverage to pull them out. And they finally get in there. It takes an hour to get down there. So, but add more time because they're putting the pulleys in the thing. They put a pulley right above him and straight goes down. They go in. The guy has a relay back radio. Hey, I got him hooked up. By this point, this dude's probably upside down, I don't know, 8-10 hours. Calm. Wrap it on his feet. The rescuer's like, okay, bring him up. And they're working. And then all of a sudden, the rescuer goes silent on the radio. They didn't know what happened, the other rescuer. And they're like, what the hell happened? Then probably like 30 minutes later, rescuer. Oh, I'm here. I'm back. Sorry. The pulley, because they had to use what they had. The rock wasn't strong enough. The pulley came off, hit him in the head, knocked him out. And he woke up. They had to take him out. He had a concussion. He was completely knocked out. Evac him out. They brought it in, and so it pulled the guy up a few feet. And then it dropped him down harder. So he's even past his ankle. I mean, it's just feet sticking out the hole. And the guy's still like singing, he's Mormon, singing praise songs. I'm going to get out of here and whatever else is going on. And they hook up the pulley. They had to run the pulley system again with a new person. It took hours, dude. At this point, it was like 25, 26 hours. He's still alive. And they were amazed because a normal person should die by now. And so they go and they ask him, dude, we're going to pull you out. But listen, the way you're in, we're going to have to break your knees and to bend because your knees are the wrong way. Yeah. Can you move your feet this way? All the pull, there was so much blood wasn't in his legs for so long.
They were dead. Yeah.
They were dead. And so they're like, crap, we need you to move your legs. So they're calling back this guy. We can't get him to move his legs. Yeah. He dies because he's already at the threshold.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they close off the cave. He's still in there today. Yeah.
Hopefully no kids playing will run into him.
Yeah, but my question to you is when you're saying there's no anxiety.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Okay.
Because scuba divers do it too.
Yeah. There was a movie that James Cameron did about cave scuba diving years ago. So here's my very broad, and I don't know this person, so I don't want to diagnose him. But broadly, like people who big wave surf or whatever, when you speak to them, what they say is the only time I feel alive is when I'm doing that thing, right? When I'm on a 100-foot wave, when I'm in a cave, when I'm whatever the extreme is, jumping out of a plane, no parachute. That's the only time I feel alive. And then you unpack that and you go, well, actually, that's the only time you feel focused because you can only think of that thing in front of you right now. When you're on a wave, you can't be thinking about your grocery list, your tax returns, the argument you got in because you're busy surviving. So what we see with many of those people is they have a hard time focusing and being in the moment, having mindfulness. They find activities that bring the mindfulness to them because they have no choice but to be mindful or else they die. It just so happens those type of people, their anxiety levels decrease because they have what's called super optimism. Super optimism is we want to have some level of optimism, right? But super optimism, usually seen in criminals, is the against all odds, things will just go my way. And it's like, no, bro, you can't climb down a cave like that and do this and not expect to die. You can't, swim with hungry sharks wearing a T-bone around your neck and expect to live.
Jackass.
Yeah, is so there's this super optimism that people have. You can't rob a bank and expect to get away with it. You can't kill someone and expect to get away with it. Oh, I'll just do this, right? So that's so you have a couple things. You have the mindfulness piece, the lack of anxiety. You have the super optimism that's going on. Inevitably, all of those people also have a little form of narcissism where they believe they're special. Like, other people couldn't do this. I'm the only person that could do this because I've been chosen to do this.
Some of the other people that got stuck in caves, especially the scuba divers, that's they were actually bragging, like, "Hey, yeah, that's the hardest cave in the world, and there's only a smaller part. That's just my game.
Yeah,
I'll get in there." But I was just wondering, it's weird how they don't. The scuba divers trigger anxiety. Everyone who's died that I've seen, I probably at this point have watched about 20 videos in the last maybe 2 weeks. Scuba divers start panicking.
Yeah.
After, no matter who you are. It may be because they're underwater and there's no oxygen.
Yeah, maybe I don't have studies in front of me, but not that I like pouring through studies. I wonder if has something to do with like the nitrogen content of their brain at that point too, and in relation to anxiety. Who knows?
Well, they get drunk. What happens is when it gets low, they get drunk, and that's why they start making bad decisions. But when the air runs out, oh man, they're like scratching at the walls.
Right.
So I mean, but these guys who just dry cave, they're just like, yeah, I'm here, and you see so many people getting stuck, and you're like, I'm thinking,
yeah, I'm different. I'm different than they are, though. I'm not as dumb as they are.
But the logic doesn't kick in. Like, no. I am so screwed right now.
No, I'm special. I was picked to do this. I have a unique set of skills and unique qualities. Therefore, I can do this, and even when it looks impossible, I will still do this.
Would that fall under terminal uniqueness? I know I got that. I use that term.
Yes, okay. It would fall under terminal uniqueness.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That's the question I had to ask, because that has to do with anxiety. Because even watching the story and the reenactment and seeing the family outside the cave, worried, like everyone is having a normal reaction except the guy in the cave. He's like, yeah, what?
So he has not enough anxiety. He is that person. Mindfulness problems probably. And then believes he's special, everything will turn out okay. And that is a very dangerous mix. And that puts you in a cave upside down for 23 hours or 25 hours. That puts you trying to pull off a bank heist. That puts you, joining a gang or jumping out of an airplane without a parachute and then trying to hang on to another guy who has a parachute, those sorts of things.
So it makes you a daredevil.
Yeah, in lots of different ways. Sure. And there's, there is some... Well, this will get into, and I want to get back to procrastination, but this will kind of get into an issue, what we call survivorship bias, which is these guys all look at the people who've been successful doing it and go, oh, see, you can do this. And they never look at the people who died, right? And this is like the bro hustle culture right now on Instagram of like, you can make stacks of money and all this. You just need to buy my course. Look at what I got. And it's like, well, yeah, look at what 13 of you have. But out of the 2 million people who bought these courses, most of them have less money or a little more money, but they don't have a yacht. Mm-hmm. And so, we only get to see the people who are super successful, the survivors of that game. And then we go, oh, I could be like that. It's like, no, why don't you take a look at everyone else? Look at the statistics. But that little trickle of narcissism, terminal uniqueness, gets people hooked and goes, well, I'm a little different. Are you a good driver?
Oh, are you asking me a real question? I used to think so. As I've gotten older, I've gotten wiser.
Yeah. When you ask this question, if you say, hey, everyone in here, are you an average driver? Most people don't raise their hand. You go, are you a slightly better than average driver? Everyone raises their hand. They go, how's that possible? Because people have a tendency to believe that they're a little smarter, not a lot smarter, but a little smarter than everyone else, a little better at something than everyone else, even though they're average or even below average. Mm. So, that kind of leads to some of this as well.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just mind-boggling to me. And the YouTube feed, and we'll get to the dreams now, but the YouTube feed, gave me that. Then it gave me scuba diving cave people getting stuck, and actually the worst tragedy or not massacre, the worst, I guess, tragedy of scuba diving actually happened with the number 1 and number 2 ranked scuba divers in the world killing themselves on accident going down a cave because they didn't understand. They were deep divers, and they know all the stuff for that, right? But they didn't understand. I'm sorry, and they did cave diving in Australia, but they didn't understand different terrain. There's caves because in Australia you can actually swim, and in the caves, and it's rocks. They hit some that had soot, and when soot kicks up in a cave underwater,
You can't see anything.
for 2 weeks you can't see. And so they completely got disoriented. They didn't run lines because they're used to Australian caves. And then the algorithm led to pilots. I don't need the checklist before I take off.
Yeah.
And then disaster.
Robert Kennedy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the pilot that killed Richie
okay.
Valens. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So let's look at, that's some super optimism there as well. There's also, who else would die in a cave diving accident except the number 1 and number 2 person, because they are in the water doing the stupidest things in the water possible.
Yeah.
Right. So they've put themselves, I'm not going to die in a cave diving accident in the water. It's going to be the people who spend their entire life cave diving who are going to die. The people who spend the most time, the people who take to become number 1 and number 2, you have to take the most risks, push yourself the furthest. And that's going to lead you to that point of almost death and where you only feel alive. So let's go from my dream of being a cave diver, which was dashed when I realized I was a little too big.
You're never too big. There's caves of all sizes, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I used to be single. So so the second type of procrastination is non-deadline. And this is why I asked you about your dreams. This is where dreams go to die. This is when I say to somebody, like, what's your dream for your life? And they go like, I really want to open a restaurant, right? That's a common one.
That is a common one.
Right. I want to move to Tuscany. And when? Later. There is no consequence if you don't open a restaurant besides your own regret. So you keep putting it off. Nobody, like in school, if I didn't complete reading those books, I would have lost 20% of my grade. The best I could have done was maybe a B- in that class or C+. So there was a serious consequence. There's no consequence for non-deadline procrastination when I say I have a dream. I want to scale the, Machu Picchu. Nobody goes, well, if you don't do it by 2027, we're going to take away your passport and you're not allowed to leave the country. And so what ends up happening is we have these dreams that we set and we keep telling ourselves, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. It's not the right time. I'll do it later. No anxiety kicks in until we can't walk or something gets taken away from us, our ability to do it, right? Whatever that might mean. I have to take care of a loved one now, so I can't leave the country. Something like that. And then we go, I should have done it. The great example I use is from that movie Collateral, if you've seen it with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise.
One of the greatest shoot scenes in there, yeah.
Yeah. And so, Jamie Foxx is a cab driver, and he has the Mercedes catalog next to him for the S600, the big four-door, and Tom Cruise sees it or whatever, and Jamie Foxx says, I'm not really a cab driver. I'm getting my stuff together. And he goes, well, how long you been getting it together? He goes, 13 years, right? And then eventually Tom Cruise uses that against him psychologically. But that's the equivalent. Nobody is saying to Jamie Foxx, if you don't buy this Mercedes tomorrow, I'm going to kill you. Or I'm going to take Mercedes is not going to allow you to buy it. And that goes with almost all of our secret dreams that we have about ourselves is nobody is going to tell us you have to do it. No one's going to take anything away from us, just time. And that's why our dreams die. That's one of the reasons our dreams die.
And it feels good to think about them, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you get that lottery ticket, you're like, man, if I hit this, and you can go into, you kind of get these little, fantasy. They fantasize like, man, yeah, when I open my bakery in Tuscany.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, in the morning, people are going to smell it. It's going to draw them in. Oh, man, that's going to be so great.
Oh yeah.
And they just go down to fantasy land. It feels good.
Oh yeah, it feels fantastic. And there's nothing wrong with pipe dreams. I mean, we don't all have to live in reality and go, there's kids starving in Botswana right now. Like, we can have fantasy. The issue is if it's something that's within your reach and you should be reaching for it, why aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And the second reason, so it's 3 P's, right? I hold up 4, 3. The second one is perfectionism. And what I mean by perfectionism is not trying to make everything perfect. People conflate perfectionism and obsessive compulsive personality disorder, where like, oh, they're a perfectionist, their desk is completely clean, and no. What I'm talking about is it's not the right time, people. So if we were going to open a restaurant right now, there are probably a lot of time reasons we shouldn't do it. Perhaps restaurant season is best around the holidays. That's when they get the busiest. Well, if we open right now, it's not the best time because we're opening during the slow season. Right after the holidays, everyone has credit card debt, and so they don't go out to eat as much. For whatever your dreams may be, is there's always it's not the right time. And it's not the right situation. I don't have enough money. I just need to save up a little more money. I just need my kid to be a little older before I do this. There are a whole series of excuses that we all tell ourselves about our dreams that prevent us from taking them because it's not the perfect moment. For Jamie Foxx, he was saying, I need to find the right clientele. I need to get the right drivers. I need to get the right cars, all of that. And that ends up stopping us from going after what we would like is perfectionism. We're waiting for the perfect time. Well, guess what? Perfect time never comes.
Yeah.
The enemy of perfect time, and our hero in this is going to be, is it good enough time? Is it a good enough time to start? And that's what we need to ask ourselves. Not is it the perfect time? Is it a good enough time? So for Jamie Foxx, who is a perfectionist, and there's another part to this, which is a lot of us want to start at the ending with perfectionism too. But, for Jamie Foxx, couldn't he have just bought a used Lincoln Town car and started from there? But no, that's not. No, I got to save up enough money to get the Mercedes S600 and get a fleet of them. And it's like, dude, that's, it's impossible, right? Each of those cars is like 105 grand. So you're going to save up like 300 grand. Then you're going to have to pay the chauffeurs and you're going to have to pay for marketing. So perfectionism is an enemy in the regard to time. And then I mentioned perfectionism is an enemy because we want the ending to be the beginning. So when you think about opening your Tuscan bakery, you're not picturing opening first a kiosk, right, at the local Tuscan mall or a kiosk here in California to see if it would work, right? You're not picturing an ugly little space. What you're picturing, and when people tell me restaurant, the first thing I think of is Cheesecake Factory. I go, like, you're picturing having like this large palatial place with a really developed menu and all of that. You're going, well, if I can't have that, I don't want to start. I go, well, you're starting at the ending.
Yeah.
You want to have the perfect restaurant right in the beginning. I go, no, you need to just start with something that's good enough. Start with a food truck.
Yeah.
Go from food truck to restaurant. I don't know how well that works, but I don't know that industry. And then like hole in the wall restaurant to larger space once you outgrow it. And then from there, you take the steps. But people go, no, I want to have the perfect beginning. And if I can't have the perfect beginning, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Finally, the last P, paralysis by analysis. And this is a psychological concept. We call it analysis paralysis. But is the idea of thinking of every way it could go wrong and allowing that to dissuade you from going after your dream.
Yeah.
So medical school, right? You have a lot of first year, they do a ton of anatomy. Second year, they do a lot of what makes you sick. Mm-hmm. So that second year, every time a med student gets an ache or a pain, they start to think of, oh my goodness, this is the end.
My ex-wife is a physician, and her friends. It depends on the rotation. Oh, I think I have cancer. Like if they're on the cancer, if they're working cancer. It's weird how the mind works, especially if you're under stress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same in therapy school. Everyone thinks they have this personality disorder, that personality disorder. And so, they look at this, they go, oh my God, my body, it's failing me. And what they don't look at is how many ways their body is working correctly. Right? They get paralysis analysis focuses on the way things can go wrong. So they go, oh my, and we go, dude, the human body is amazing. We're replicating millions of cells every day. Everything's going right. In spite of us hurting ourselves, in spite of us eating crappy food, being sedentary, doing things that getting bad sleep, all of the terrible health things we do, our body still is able to accomplish a lot. But then any ache or pain, and we go, oh my God, this is the end. Right? Or we talk about opening a restaurant. Whoa, well, what if on the first day someone gets food poisoning? What if I don't have the right location and nobody comes by? What if a food critic comes in and pans us for being, dirty, or a cockroach runs out at the exact moment that the health inspector, and there's a million ways it goes wrong. So what we do is we go, okay, I have this dream, and maybe we go, okay, now is time. I'm not going to let non-deadline procrastination stop me. And then we go, to the perfectionism. Okay, I have enough money to make it good enough. I have, enough knowledge of how a restaurant runs to make it good enough. Not perfect. So we get to that, and then we go next. But man, what if, the what ifs? What if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And you start to do that to yourself. Then you go, well, I just can't do it. It's not right. Instead of driving down the street, and I know 40% of restaurants go out of business within the first year. However, when you drive down the street every day, you see the same restaurants. You see, every major boulevard is covered in restaurants, and many of them have been there for many years. So restaurants do survive.
One thing I've learned from my friend Steve, the S guy you brought up, is he owns restaurants. And he's not a restaurateur. He became a restaurateur probably like 4 years ago, right before COVID. I don't know how long ago that was, but 4 or 5 years. And being around him, I understand why they fail. This is just on a side note here. I understand. I don't completely understand, but it gives me insight. The question I think these you were talking about analysis paralysis. Yeah. Or even the procrastinators, when they have these dreams, how much is this going to cost? They don't think of that. First, you got to move. You got to live in Tuscany. And the bread, where are you going to get your flour from to make the bread? And the butter, the sourcing, all those things. And like my friend, his restaurant, it's very good actually. They know when they make something, like they put lettuce, how many pieces, they know how much that costs.
Right. This is half a cent worth of lettuce. If you do 3/4 of a cent worth of lettuce, we go out of business.
Yeah. Or if someone goes, extra cheese, okay, that changes the dynamic here of the cost of this burger and how does it affect. And so you have to be analytical. You got to have some spreadsheets. You have to understand what the hell's going on. It looks simple. Hey man, we'll buy a pack of hot dogs. There's 30 of them for $5 at Costco.
Right.
And they do these generalities, and they get lost in the nuance of the numbers. But yeah, but going back to dreams, people don't think of any dream. Like even this podcast studio, I had to break down how much it costs for everything. So I was like, okay, well I can't get the dream cameras. I have to use the cameras that I have that overheated in the first episode that we got.
Good enough.
The good enough cameras. Everything's it's good enough. This right here, this sign was made on Etsy. For like I got it on sale for maybe $60-something. It was normally like 100 and something, but this person had a big sale, and I was like, boom.
Oh,
yeah.
They had a couple of the For a Reason podcast with Kenny Tenney.
Oh no, it's custom.
They had 15 of them.
Yeah. No, they're like, hey, you just send in the graphic, and this is, I think it's handmade or machine made in North Carolina. There's someone out there on Etsy, but yeah, but I get what you're saying. But that's from learning,
right? Because
the dreaming, you've accomplished your goals, right? I don't know if
I have bigger goals, but yes.
Yeah, bigger goals. But now that you've done that and you've walked the walk, like Rumi says, don't take advice from someone. When going on a journey, don't take advice from someone who's never left home.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Can't you tell when someone's a dreamer? You're like...
I interviewed someone for a position once. This was many years ago. And, they were all talking... And it was for not an entry. I mean, I don't know what, like entry level therapy position. So you still have your master's degree and a license, but they were talking about, well, one day I want to be the leader, the clinical director of this place, and then the chief clinical officer, and then I'm going to own my own, and then I'm just like, you haven't even started day one. Like like your narcissism is showing here. So there's a power. So with people criminals especially, but narcissists tend to be criminals too. There's a power structure issue that they really struggle with, which is they need to be in control always. They need to be the boss. I don't do well working for other people, and so even when they try and get these other people corporate jobs, they can't do them because I should be the boss. I'm as smart as my. I'm like, well, great, pay your dues and you get there. It's not just about, we don't do IQ tests and then kick somebody out of their position, because also a job's not just about whether you have the knowledge, right? A job is also about your talent, and that only can be judged over time. It's also about your people skills. Yeah. And if you're saying these stupid things out loud to me in an interview and saying you want my position the minute you walk in, not knowing how this place even works or what I do, that it tells me a lot. So yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are dreamers. And I just remember just sitting there scratching my head. Like, do you know what my job? I get up sometimes at 2 a.m. and have to run in here because a nurse fell asleep and someone's making a complaint against them, and I have to pull the footage and do a report for DHCS before they, all kinds of things. I'm like, you think it's like, oh, I'm going to play. Everyone wants to be a CEO. I'm going to play CEO. I'm like, yeah, until you actually have to be one, and you're responsible for 100 people's families, and you have to, at 4 a.m. deal with something while your workers would go, oh, I don't work at that time. Let me contact my union rep for you even calling me and asking me to.
Yeah, yeah. And not, in that, like you said, that example you gave of a problem of the nurse.
Yeah.
That doesn't count for the employees that don't get along, maybe some sexual harassment complaints, coworker. There's always a fire. There's always a fire to put out.
Oh, small fires cost big money. I can't get into it, but there are some like small little things like cord management issues that can cost $100,000.
Oh,
someone you don't manage your cords well enough and someone falls, and then your insurance rate goes up and all kinds of things.
Yeah. I actually personally experienced something like that where, like I was telling you before we were recording, there's an employer where they got to the point where they're like looking at the evidence and witness statements from their own employees, and we're like, we don't want to go to trial.
Yeah,
please, let's just make this go away. Well, I don't know. There's a psychological term though that crossed my mind when you were talking about that guy, like talking about, I want to CEO this place.
She was a female. She was a female.
Oh, female. Yeah. There's a psychological term that, because I see it a lot in MMA and jiu-jitsu, is I forget what it is, but this is like the general concept or idea behind it is that they have a complete ignorance of what it takes to do something.
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes, Dunning-Kruger effect, where they're just like, they look at you, just go, you guys are just kind of rolling around. And
just stand up, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, do you know how hard this is? You know how exhausting and how much thought goes in? Yeah. Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah, where the less you know about something, the more you think you'd be good at it.
Yes.
And the more you know about something, the less value you give to your ability to be good at it.
Yes.
Right? As experts always go, man, I'm not the real expert. This person's the real expert. They know way more than me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the Dunning-Kruger effect, put it in the context of that woman in the interview, it showed her, she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in the end, a couple years later, she did get one of those gigs. And it's like what we call a pop-up shop. A pop-up shop in the rehab game is like someone goes to rehab, looks around and goes, dude, I could run one of these places, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, it's $3,000 a day. People are insurance are paying for them to be an inpatient. Gee, okay, so there's 15 people here. That's $45,000. When they start doing, like their stupid mental math, mm-hmm. not thinking about all the other expenses.
Yeah, and risks.
And so they found, yes, exactly. And she found a pop-up shop that was willing to take a risk on her, and went south real fast. Couple of deaths in a week. Yeah.
Was this drug rehab?
Yeah.
Deaths as in like ODs?
At the facility. I don't want to be too specific, but the way that most people die in drug rehab is either OD or suicide.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You get random ones too, like DVT, deep vein thrombosis, if you have somebody who flew from far away. But You got to screen for
So,
that.
I wonder what her mindset's now.
Yeah, I haven't.
Trial by fire, or is she humbled, or she's like, yeah,
Could happen to anyone.
I'm a narcissist. Wasn't me, it was them.
Right. So externalizing, that's a lot of people, which is that when, so false attribution error. When something good happens to them, it's because, yeah, dude, I'm super smart. Like, of course, I ran this place and we got famous and we did the right. But when something goes bad, well, that wasn't my fault. That was all bad luck. That was this person. That was that person, right? Not being able to take full ownership. And so that happens for most people is they can't look at the bad in their lives and say, what part, when we go back to our buckets of shit, what was the stuff I could kind of control there? Because we can always throw shit in the bad luck bucket. But can we put it in the what could I have kind of controlled there? Were there safeguards you could have put in place? Currently, some rehabs have, it's almost like a Fitbit that does pulse ox, so how much oxygen's in your blood, and your pulse so that we can see when you're overdosing. Because when somebody's overdosing, we're immediately seeing both of those things drop significantly. And so you walk up near them with your iPad when you're rounding meaning going around looking at people, and it picks up the signal and immediately, oh, they're overdosing. And then, hit them with Narcan. Did you do that? Well, no, I didn't do that. Well, that was maybe something, if you were in the game long enough, you would have known. Are you using the TAP system for all of the nurses so that when they say they're rounding at 2 a.m., going around to each of the rooms and writing down, client had a respiration rate of 16, and that they actually did it and weren't just in the office asleep and then woke up in the morning after and wrote the notes. Oh, yeah, I checked on everyone. So you have to walk up and actually tap it. And are you watching the cameras? Waking up at 2 a.m. watching the cameras or watching recorded footage to make sure everything's going on? Are you making sure everyone's good at searches? There's a whole lot to that specific game. But yeah, no, there was just bad luck.
Yeah, it wasn't me, it was them. Man, you're saying so many things, it's making my mind go all over the place. I was actually talking to a female friend of mine, and she was on the phone. She lives in Huntington Beach. This is yesterday or the day before. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I was just on the phone with her, and she's like, oh my God. And I go, what? She goes, right by me here, there's a lady. She's like freaking passed out with a needle in her arm. And she goes, it's so sad. These people, I go, what? Is she breathing?
911.
Yes, I told her. I said, dude, check.
That's someone's daughter.
And she goes, well, I think I saw her hand twitch. I go, listen.
She's still dying.
Yeah, I said, people die slow when they overdose. I said, the respiratory system slowly shuts down. So she never called. And I was thinking, I mean, what do I do?
Called call Huntington Beach PD, and somewhere on Main Street, and the general says there's someone overdosing.
I didn't even know what street she was on.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we know.
That's what I told her. I said, you should call, man.
Yeah. Well, that's stigma too. And that's a problem we deal with, even, in hospitals and stuff. I have to be careful. I can't not criticize workplaces and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain doctors who stigmatize and don't. Oh, they're like the minute you go into an emergency room and they're an addiction, they're an addict. Put them over there, kind of thing. And it's like, no, this is an illness. We need to see it as such. And so if she saw an older woman who had just kind of fallen onto the concrete there, like maybe had a seizure, whatever, didn't have a needle in her, and was just laying there and her hand was twitching. Do you think she would have said, oh man, there's an old lady laying on the ground, her hand's twitching, that's crazy?
Yeah.
No, she wouldn't have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But because it was somebody in addiction, she's like, well, they did that to themselves. I'll just leave that there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we call, that's stigma, which is, believing that addicts are bad people, or I even used the term addict, but people in addiction are bad people. Mm-hmm. And that whatever happens to them, they deserve, and maybe the world's even better off without them, right? That's what stigma is. And it's just not true, because we consistently see people who recover from their addiction and they become great. Not everyone recovers from it, but the ones who do, not all of them become great, but there are many of them who become great, and they're celebrated artists, and they're your doctors, your lawyers,
some of them are just regular people.
Workers. Yeah, your teachers, your all of that. You're a tattoo artist because a lot of them get into tattoo art. But but I mean, but we look at them and I don't say we like me because I work in addiction medicine, but like people look at them and just go, okay, well they're on the floor dying over there. Whatever, that's their problem. That they would never do for any other illness.
Yes, yeah. I had a friend of mine. She overdosed. She died of an overdose in 2018. 2018 was a rough year. I had the suicide overdose is in the same month, and this one here, she was. I've known her since I was 10 or 11 years old, whatever year in 7th grade, and I remember when she was going through addiction. I didn't know how to identify it at first.
No.
But I knew something was wrong with the conversations we would have. I could tell when she was high. But see, I've been around crackheads and people on stimulants. I've never seen someone on like
downers.
Yeah, she was taking, I think I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Oxys or something.
Diluted?
Dilaudid. Good stuff.
Yeah. She was crushing it and injecting it. Like just mainlining it, and she would just say the most bizarre. And I thought she was having like a nervous breakdown, but no, she was on drugs, and she actually overdosed. And it could have been prevented, of course. A lot of overdoses because she should have been watched at home. She shouldn't have been prescribed those medications. And her husband, her boyfriend at the time, knew that she had addiction problems, knew that she was taking too much of that, and left her at home alone with all that stuff. And during the peak, she was coming out of it, struggling. But it's just crazy. It's a crazy type of thing, man.
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My point, I got caught up in the stories. People in addiction, they are a lot of the times they're regular people. She was a regular working mom who got addicted to painkillers after a breast implant job, and then it just spiraled out. She got caught up in addiction in her mid-30s.
It can hit anybody. Look, a major cause of alcoholism, something we screen for, is having lap band surgery, laparoscopic band surgery, right, where they put the band around your stomach so you can lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
There's not just a high correlation. I mean, it's humongous correlation between alcoholism and that. People who weren't alcoholics but had a obesity issue went get the surgery. They did their normal social level of drinking, become crazy alcoholics.
Why? Is it easier to get
It has to do
drunk?
with the absorption issues and it getting to the liver and stuff like that. I'm not the best with the science on it.
That's crazy, man.
But I mean, so it's something we screen for is, when you're looking, okay, I'm an alcoholic. Okay, have you had lap band surgery? That's something we have on. And a lot of them go, well, yeah. And we say, well, did the doctor warn you? And some of them say, oh, yeah, he did warn me or she did warn me. And then others say no. And I go, okay, well, there's a reason we're asking this because of the high correlation. And they're like, what? So I'm not saying don't get the surgery, but I'm saying that we see that. I'm
adding that to my psychic toolkit.
There you go. Did you have lap band surgery? Huh? So what's interesting you were talking about, which shows you're not stigmatizing, is the responsibility pie, like a pie graph.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're like people want to stigmatize people in addiction, what they want to do is blame the person in addiction for everything that happens to them.
Yeah.
It's their fault. But in life, when is it ever just one issue that leads to something else? It's usually, we always want to assign blame. Let's blame, because it's lazy thinking and it's easy. But usually there's a whole slew. So when people, there's a whole bunch of people online who talk about doctors are evil, they cause drug addiction. And yes, some of them do. Absolutely. That is one piece of the pie of addiction. And so that there are people who, like your friend, who get on medications and they're not warned enough about how addictive they are. The system was made wrong because for a long time you could go get multiple prescriptions filled at different pharmacies.
Yeah.
Right. So it's partially the system's problem because when they knew they were dealing with a highly addictive substance, they didn't put good enough safeguards in place. The partner's problem, the family. There is a whole series when we look at the micro, macro, and micro, meso, and macro levels. Micro being like her direct family, the people who knew her, not like intervening, or intervening, but not getting maybe professional help. And then at the meso level, like her doctors who are prescribing it, surgeons who aren't explaining the amount of pain that breast implant surgery can cause due to the complications, that people just sign stuff and they don't really have discussions. And then the macro level, not having good enough regulation over painkillers, not having doctors trained well enough to identify people who are addicted to painkillers when they come in to the ER, and not having protocols in place for pain management as well.
Yeah.
Like the pain management docs, that's their job, is to try and keep people off of these meds through
Not in
tapering
Florida.
them.
Not in Florida.
No, that was a whole scam. But there's a whole series of, for this one woman who died, we can see so many other factors that caused it. And so when we're looking at, let's go back to Huntington Beach, and we see this woman laying on the floor with a needle
in the arm, dude.
Yeah, and then, I don't know her story, but, we can probably find, instead of going, she's just some person in addiction, it's her fault, is, maybe she, and this is just projection, right? But it's also in hearing thousands of people in addiction stories, and women. So, women in addiction, when we go into the rooms, and by rooms I'm talking about like 12-step rooms, we hear most women in addiction suffered from sexual abuse. All right, so let's give some of the, and I don't know this person, but let's give some of the blame to the offender. And by the way, let the person who offended, let's give some of the blame to the people who offended against that person to make them an offender, if that did happen that way. Mm-hmm. And let's go ahead and look at Dare and how stupid it was, and not, Dare has been a total abysmal prevention tool.
I disagree. I think the dances. I'm kidding.
And and so we look at that, and we look at like the family members who may be enabled, like when grandma died and left behind a giant bottle of Percocet, the family didn't just dispose of it, or they saw their child starting with the marijuana issue and didn't intervene, and the school that didn't have a system set up for kids who get into addiction issues, and and it becomes very, I'm making up a story, but it's a story that applies to a lot of people.
Yes.
And it becomes very broad. And so then to look at one individual as simply the master of the universe, of their own universe in addiction, is so interesting thing. And you can look this up. Jamie, look up the footage. But I would do groups. I've run thousands of groups in addiction treatment centers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do this experiment. I go, okay, everybody, what color eyes do you have? And we'd go around the room. And let's say there's 14 people in a group, like 9 of them would have blue eyes. And I go, don't you guys think that's weird? Now, note, I'm not doing this group in South America where you're going to have a lower percentage of brown-eyed people, and I'm not doing it in China. I'm not doing it in Africa. But, I'm going, isn't that weird that in our population here in America, blue-eyed people make up a tiny sliver, right? It's like, I forget what it is. I want to say like 7 to 20%. And yet in here, it's like 80%. And I would do this consistently in groups. Mm-hmm. And we'd see that, and they'd go, well, what does that mean? And I go, well, they've isolated a gene that somehow correlates between blue eye color and alcoholism. So there were some things that you were almost predestined, that were completely out of control, that made alcohol taste better to you, made heroin taste better to you, that you didn't even think about. So we look at this woman laying in, and it's like, everyone who tries marijuana doesn't become a pothead. Everyone who tries alcohol doesn't become an alcoholic. Everyone who gets prescribed painkillers doesn't become an opioid addict. But there are certain, like a 10% of the population that stuff tastes so much better. It impacts their brain. So many people go, oh, I took Oxy and it made me itchy and feel crappy. And then there's that 10% that go, I took it and I felt like a dream. I felt like a warm hug. It felt like, the common one I'd always hear is like, you were driving in a rainstorm and it was pouring, and then you went into a tunnel and all the rain just stopped. And, it's like, well, why did it do that to you? Is that your fault that you had opioid receptors that just were so much stronger than another person? And it's something to keep in mind when we look at people is we want to assign, we talked about the false attribution error, which is if something good happened to me or I did something good, it's because I'm a genius, and if something bad happens, it's bad luck. Is we have to start looking at it from a more a broader view, a bird's eye perspective, which is there's a lot of factors that go into everything.
Yeah.
I'm not the master of my domain, nor am I a victim to my domain. Usually it's somewhere in between.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a thought and I was holding it and it went away. But yeah, addiction's crazy. I know for me, I don't drink alcohol. I stopped drinking in high school, my senior year. But I remember drinking. It did make me feel like I felt different than other people. It felt amazing. Like I felt at peace, and the world was at peace. And I could probably write the most beautiful poetry. Like everything seemed right. My friends were like, "Oh man, I'm a puke" or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, it made things right. And that's why I drank a lot.
Or there were friends who could contain it. Like, okay, you guys drank on a Saturday night, and then on Wednesday, you're like, "Hey guys, after school, we should go by a liquor store and see if someone will buy it." And they're like, "Bro, what's wrong with you, dude?"
That was me.
Yeah, why are you fiending? And it wasn't, because you decided alcohol was, something good for you. Like you just have something in your brain reacts to alcohol in that manner.
Yeah.
And there were other reasons too. Maybe there was, emotional distress you were dealing with that they weren't dealing with, that it provided relief. But there is definitely a chemical reaction that we're not even, like, it's sad, but like almost all my family on one side has died from addiction. My cousin actually died in the hospital, intentional overdose after getting a bad diagnosis, but she had been in addiction for a long period of time. My uncle died of cirrhosis of the liver. His brother, my other uncle, died of COPD, and he was smoking a carton of cigarettes on his last week, hooked up to the thing, the oxygen masks, and I can go on and on.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a grandfather who was addicted to what was Darvocet, and he would start drinking just glasses of whiskey in the morning, like a whole glass, the way we would water. He died very young. And so for me, I knew, okay, and I have this predilection towards all things addictive. I need to be very, very careful.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. My family, my dad had 11 siblings, so it's 12 kids, 100% drug and alcohol addiction. And then their kids, and intermingle crime with that too, right?
Right. Well, the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, and that's why then things wouldn't go right with me, even if when I would do right, and that's how I subconsciously concluded that I was cursed. I look like, oh man, I come from cursed people, but through therapy, the EMDR therapist that I was seeing, Dr. Vaved Gonzalez in Orange County, she's amazing. She changed my perspective on that. It made a world of difference, but because it was so ingrained, I was like, no matter what I do,
right?
I've gotten sick. I was sick for almost 10 years, couldn't work. I was literally legally disabled. I mean, just all kinds of things.
It's from my bloodline.
Yeah.
By blood.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I inherited this crap. But I want to ask your opinion on something. I know a few people, less than a handful of people that have done this, where their kids are like in high school, even 9th grade to 12th.
I feel like I know where this is going, and you're about to set a fire off. But go ahead.
Their kids smokes weed, right? So smokes. Crap! I was going. My friend calls it. He says it in Spanish, the green devil. I don't know. It's Diablo. I don't forget.
Verde?
Yeah, the Verde Diablo. Okay. But yeah, cannabis. And the parents got to the point where they're like, they've just given up and said we can't stop them. But it's to the point where the kid smokes in the house now. They could just Bob Marley it all day, and I remember like even when I was running with street gangs, those black moms.
Grandma would whoop your ass.
Yes. You don't smoke it. You better not come home smelling like smoke. You're not coming home, or Yeah, she'll hit you with that 50, 60. Well, you got young grandmas that punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this has to be a setup for failure, man. Because there's it seems like there's a boundary that's broken and a precedence that's set. And I wanted your opinion on that.
Yeah. That's why I was
Let's go to war. Let's do this.
Oh, it's terrible.
This is going to be a clip right here. This is gonna be a
I'll go
highlight.
on record. It's horrible parenting.
Okay.
So, first of all, your brain hasn't developed yet as a teenager, right? Brains don't fully develop into mid to late 20s. There are studies now that are showing a high correlation between usage of cannabis and schizophrenia. And I see it more and more in the emergency department with people coming in, smoking weed and now paranoid, hearing voices, derealization, depersonalization, all kinds. And those derealization, depersonalization are not psychotic disorders, a part of the anxiety family, just to be clear in case somebody wants to get crazy. But seeing psychosis kicking off for a lot of people. And if we looked at somebody, I mean, and we have to look at the audience you're talking to right now, me, which is somebody who fights against people doing drugs. This is like just walking into your house every day and hitting your kid in the head with a shovel. You're killing their long-term memory. That little gate in your brain that allows short-term memories into long-term memories, that gets closed up pretty quick with the use of marijuana, and we see a decline in that. We see a high correlation between depression and the use of marijuana because, I'm sitting around my house all day not doing anything. Relationship satisfaction, sexual dysfunction. When we go down the line, I'm not saying an adult can't, smoke a joint, but, with a kid and you're going, oh, this is fine. And you're setting a standard of saying like, this is acceptable. Oh, well, my parents allowed me to do it. So somebody who's an expert, somebody who loves me and cares for me doesn't think this is dangerous for me. It must not be. And I'm just going, no. And not to mention how powerful the marijuana is nowadays. So you have wax, dabs, shatter, these things in the 90 percentile of THC. In the 60s, people were smoking like 6%. So this is the difference between Everclear and like a really watered down Coors Light, right? Yeah. And these kids are just, hitting shots of Everclear. And so it sets them up for, poor mental hygiene issues. And it attracts a certain audience to their house as well. Who are the kids that are going to be coming over now? Right?
Yeah, not the church kids.
Yeah, that's the house where you get to smoke weed, and the parents get you weed. And
cool parents.
And by the way, cool parents. You gonna pay for the psychiatrist when your kid's friend comes over and smokes the Bubba Kush and has like a schizophrenic or a psychotic break, and the kid needs to be put on antipsychotics? Are you going to pay for that? I know that's an extreme. Are you going to pay?
No, that happens, dude. That happens more than you realize.
Oh, I know.
I know someone who works for the county of Kern, and they don't disclose names or anything, but when it got legalized, there was a spike in people coming into the mental health ward for the county.
Oh, yeah. And so are you going to pay if the kid gets in an accident while driving under the influence of it? I mean, you open yourself up to liability. You're teaching your kid it's fine. Hey, how about this? And everyone talks about Joe. Oh, Joe Rogan smokes weed and he's successful. And I know Joe, and Joe didn't smoke weed until he was successful. He's not successful because of weed. He wasn't smoking weed in high school. He smoked after he became a successful adult on Fear Factor. So let's also keep like many of these successful potheads in perspective.
Yeah, I have an opinion on Joe. I'm a fan, absolute fan, and I like what he's done in a lot of subjects, especially jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And I think he's a very intelligent person. He's changed his tune on this, I've noticed, but before he's like, everyone needs to try weed, everybody. And I'm like, what the hell? People have adverse reactions just biologically. Like, it's like saying everyone should try peanuts. No.
Yeah.
There's someone going to have a reaction, dude, and it's not made for everyone. But it was very interesting to me how how analytical he was, but he's not that analytical with cannabis. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like his blind spot.
Yeah, we all have our blind spots. I'm not that analytical with ice cream.
Oh. You're so dumb.
But
yeah, but I'm a fan of Joe.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Joe Rogan,
But-
and actually, when I had a seasoning company, he actually promoted it for free.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a fan, but it's just that cannabis thing because I was also a high school teacher. I'm sorry to interrupt you,
no, go ahead.
but I was a high school teacher, and he has a big influence, and these kids hear it and go, well,
He smokes weed.
yeah, look how awesome he is.
Yeah. Oh, he does psychedelics. He does DMT. I
Yeah,
was like, okay, he does them as an adult.
You know-
I can't put his business out there,
Yeah.
but he has had adverse reactions.
oh, he's talked about it.
Okay. All right.
He's
So then
talked
if he's spoken about it, he has had, I'm like in 2000, I want to say 2005 or so, like smoked some bad weed or whatever, just had a bad you don't even have to smoke bad weed, you just smoked weed, had a reaction, or, he was like kind of not of this earth in his brain for a while.
Yeah, he did also either DMT or he did something. He said, or ecstasy, one of them. He said it screwed him up. He was on his podcast. Said it screwed him up so bad, like he didn't think he was coming back. Like it was.
And people sometimes with marijuana it's harder for them to come back. So we'll see people.
Really?
Yeah, we'll see people on meth, right? And they go into meth psychosis. It's very common. And it usually starts with shadow people and kind of the government's following me, and then I keep seeing the same person somewhere, and then everyone's out to get me, and then people want to kill me, voices in the wall.
That's called shadow psychosis.
No. Shadow people are a thing that meth people kind of joke about.
Okay, because I've seen someone slip in the. I've witnessed firsthand someone slip in the schizophrenia, and they were doing that.
Yeah. So with meth, and somebody who's not schizophrenic but does slip into that psychosis, I mean, if you're up for 5 days straight, bad stuff happens in your brain.
Yeah.
We can pull them out of that pretty quick. Within 3 or 4 days of sleep, some good sleep meds, a couple antipsychotics, and there's a lot of things we can do to help them, and they come out of it. The ones who come to us who have a psychosis that's related to marijuana, it's very hard to pull them out of. We don't know.
Okay, you just opened up something here for me because I have a very close and personal family member that abused marijuana hard, and they became a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the correlation is between the two, but I know there's a correlation, but I don't know in their case, was it
chicken and the egg kind of thing?
Yes. But there's no one in the family that has schizophrenia on both sides. There's obviously mental health issues of, your run-of-the-mill stuff, but no one has anything severe like that.
Yeah, nobody has a thought disorder where they're no longer in touch with reality.
Yes.
People have mood disorders. They're depressed. Maybe they have anxiety, those sorts of things, but they don't have a delusional situation. They don't have hallucinations. They don't have some of the false belief systems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's another symptom in there too. I don't know what this is, but it's like the mind is just redlining. It's just thinking of stuff all the time. They're like,
flight of idea.
Flight of idea. That's a very common part of it. But one thing that was noticeable when they smoked cannabis, those symptoms would come out when they're on cannabis.
Right.
And it got to the point where they would just smoke cannabis all the time. But now they went so far, they stopped, and it's weird. They realized that the cannabis did something to them.
Yeah.
But they're gone. They're too far gone. And so with that said, can you not have it in your genetics and the cannabis bring it? Or does it? You have to have it in you.
I would be speaking on studies that I haven't read in 5 years.
That's a long time in the internet world. Just so you know, you read a news article 2 years ago. What the hell?
Well, because when I would put together my marijuana groups, I'd get into the studies because I'd always have what we call intellectual users who go, yeah, but weed, people have been smoking weed forever, and it enhances your brain, and
the Native Americans.
Yeah, and it makes me more musical. And I go, okay, well, it's all great and all, but you're also in rehab, so let's, maybe not your best intellectual moment. And so I had all those studies, when I did that group, and it was 7% of the population there's a 7% likelihood or something when your parent is schizophrenic, and then I forget what you add to it then when you smoke marijuana. But we've seen an uptick. The studies are there. There was a recent study on men, specifically men and schizophrenia and their cannabis use and the correlation between like now a higher incidence of psychosis with those who are using cannabis, men who are. So
Why is it hard for I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot. And maybe this is information that you haven't you're not up to date on right now. But why is when they go psychosis or schizophrenic, why is it hard for them to come back as opposed to other drugs? Is the change permanent or something?
I can't. There's too much. That's why I'm not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Neurologist.
Okay, because I was just wondering, like, crap, man, because when you look at marijuana, people equate it to booze, and you're like, well,
that's
crap.
a mistake. Marijuana stays in your system for a much longer time.
Yeah.
Right. So you can be with some of this. I've seen people test positive for marijuana who weren't smoking marijuana for 3 months. With some of this,
just from being around
being a regular smoker and doing some of the like the high potency waxes and stuff, is they're just not from contact, but just it stayed in their system just from I used it March 1st and I'm still testing positive June 30th.
Oh no, I've seen it. The longest I've seen it, and this is actually this person I'm talking about. I tried to help them and get them into the military, and they ended up going in the military. But the recruiter was cool. It was not, I don't know, cool. But
recruiter got paid to get his numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. The recruiter was like, "Hey, here's some home drug tests. Detox this person, and when it starts getting to here, he's clean." And he had to send us so many because it probably took 4 months, and we were doing Bikram yoga. You know what Bikram is? Hot sweating, detoxing teas, regular sauna, exercising, and it's still...
How fat was he?
Not fat, just regular Joe.
Because that's also an issue, is it stores in the fat.
The fat?
Cells. Yeah.
I'm thinking, not overweight, just a regular Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sticks around. So when people go, alcohol's out of your system in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe 2 days, we can still catch it in your system. I mean, if you go on a crazy bender and are at like 0.29 or something, we're going to probably see it in your system longer than that. But
worst case scenario, your brain's just going to shut down. You'll pass out, right?
And die, yeah.
Yeah, and die. But yeah, but it's just weird. I'm just shocked about the cannabis, about how I didn't know that. I knew that it was linked to because I did a lot of research in this because I was trying to help this person.
Right.
I did a lot of research. I know it's linked to schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And that I think it's 5 times more likely to get schizophrenia if you are a chronic abuser.
I couldn't confirm or deny. Yeah.
Based on my research, it's 5 times more likely. But I didn't know, like, meth psychosis, marijuana psychosis. It's easier to come back from meth because meth is so damn toxic.
Acid.
Yeah, dude.
And this is my let's look at anecdotal evidence. This is my anecdotal evidence from seeing thousands of people in addiction and watching most people. Like, there were a couple people with meth that stuck around. Their psychosis stuck around, and those are some of the older, like, meth users who are in their late 30s, have been using since they're 18 and in and out of rehab. But for the most part, we get those younger meth users. We could pull them out of that psychosis pretty quick. But some of them, they just go to sleep for like 2 days straight and then wake up and be, man, what was I thinking? I was seeing demons and stuff. No, got better. But,
yeah, it almost sounds like sleep deprivation psychosis. Yeah, and it's just crazy to me to think that marijuana, which is legal now, is can cause you to cross over to the dark side, and it's harder to come back. That's just absolutely horrifying to think about.
And then we get in this argument, and I where we go, well, what's worse? And I go, well, let's not use substances. Really, I don't need to make was it heroin's worse than meth? Meth is worse than Oxycontin. Oxycontin's worse than marijuana. Marijuana's worse than alcohol.
Yeah, or it's like usually this is used in political debates. Whataboutism.
Yeah.
Well, marijuana. Well, what about heroin?
Yeah.
But I see it this way: they're all bad, and they're all bad, and some are just bad quicker than others. Like alcohol,
Yeah.
you could probably just drink out. Say you got a control under for 6 years, and you stop. You can't go through withdrawals. Your body's gonna freaking. You might die.
You die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Xanax and alcohol are two substances where you will die in the withdrawals. Not will die, but can't die.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are certain drugs that have a recreational group that's much larger. Alcohol, and marijuana have a much larger recreational group. There's not a lot of recreational heroin users.
Well, do you know what you said that you mentioned that the cannabis in the 70s and 80s was like a Coors Light.
Yeah.
I wonder if the schizophrenia was lower too. You know what I'm saying? Because the potency. I wonder if there's a correlation between those two.
Right, and I'm sure somebody can do the data on that. Also, the one issue might be our diagnostics weren't as good back then, and the stigma of admitting you used marijuana because it was a felony in some states. Devil's lettuce. I'm not looking to criminalize, but I just don't want people to use. And when people do use, I want them to have fully functioning brains ahead of time, not be the 16-year-old with a cool mom.
Yeah,
they're gonna do it. They do it under my roof. And I'm like,
I hate that argument.
What other horrible activities would you want them doing under your roof if they're going to do it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I hate that argument that parents put out. Yeah. There's one of my I've known a few. One of them I actually straight up checked her, right. and I didn't. It just came out. You know, you like normally you try to be careful when talking to people, other kids, because they always go to the, don't tell me how to raise my kids, like. Because you have a kid now, you're an expert in raising kids. But I just said it out of reflex because when it comes to kids, I'm just I get triggered or whatever you want. I'm protective, whatever you want to call it. But I was like, she's like, well, you know, she wanted to do it. Like her daughter's first marijuana experience was with her.
She's going to smoke it for the first time. I'm going to be her guide. Her
yeah. So I showed her, you know, like, don't take too much. I don't want to be around some guys or, they'll take advantage of her. I go, look, dude, if you're going to kick her off on a habit, she's not going to say, okay, well, let me go back to my mom's house. I'm going to go get high all the time. You just taught her how to get high, and she's going to do it wherever the hell she wants. She's a kid. I said, think of you when you're a kid, how your reasoning was. When I look back when I was a kid, I was so, at the time, in my head, I'll say kid, 18 years old. I was an idiot.
Lucky to get out alive.
Yeah. But in my head, I had it figured out. I just look at old people and go, man, you're taking the city bus. By the time I'm your age, I'm a freaking billionaire. What the hell?
We're all going to be billionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah, every one of us are going to be millionaires, and we're going to be the best at everything we do.
And I'm not going to do what my parents did, man.
No way. No way. Create a stable household. Yeah, cool parents.
That's what got me, and I checked her straight out, and she didn't.
And it may be too late. I mean, not that. Look, only a certain group of the population becomes addicted to something, but man, you don't want to be the reason. If your kid then becomes addicted, and like let's say goes through that typical, starts with marijuana, goes to party drugs like MDMA and cocaine, and then someone gets some oxys for them, and then eventually gets into heroin or meth. You don't want to be the person who said, "Well, yeah, I started them on that ladder."
Yes. Yeah. Like I know this is a goofy reference. Did you used to watch The Simpsons when it first came out or whatever? Everyone did, right?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Simpsons freak.
Do you remember there was an episode where there was a flashback of Homer Simpson?
Is it in the desert when he's high?
No. There's a flashback where he flashbacks. Who's that dude that's drunk all the time? Barney is a flashback in college, and Homer keeps pressuring him to drink a beer. He goes, dude, what's the worst going to happen?
I don't know. Yeah.
What's the worst going to happen? And then it pops. He's just a full-blown alcoholic. But yeah, it's weird because it's funny, but it's true. Like, do you want to be the person that introduced him to that as opposed to be that sage of wisdom that tries to be that balance of,
Well, and what I will say to people when they say, oh, well, it's fine or whatever, look at successful people who do it, or I'm successful. And I go, are you successful because of it? Or are you successful in spite of it?
Yeah.
because I see it more as an impediment than it is something that ameliorates your ability to be successful. So do you want to put impediments in front of your kids' success?
What do you think about people that smoke weed every day, like a Snoop Dogg?
Smoke weed every day.
Yeah. I mean, say they function in or whatever.
What other substance would we say that's okay?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's I'm thinking. Are they self-medicating?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not like not even like satire, like, oh yeah, that's just gut react. Oh yeah. Like, yeah. Anybody who's trying to alter their reality and then, oh, you have a cup of coffee or something, that's always the ism, whatever argument. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a different argument. But anybody who needs to alter their reality, like, oh shit, when I wake up in the morning, oh, dude, I gotta smoke a little bit. And like, oh, we're gonna go watch a movie. Oh, gotta smoke.
Wake and bake.
Yeah. Like, why is it that you always need to enhance where other people can be in reality and they don't need the enhancement? Is it that you have certain feelings, reactions, beliefs that are triggered by not being high that go away when you're high? Maybe let's deal with those instead of being high all the time. Why not? Well, I can function and be high all the time. Well, let's start to look at this. How have your relationships been? Most of the people who smoke all day, I go, do you have any relationships that broke up because of your marijuana usage? And they're like, well, maybe. Right? You lost any jobs? Knock on vacations or enjoyed things? Had like lots of productive things you should have been doing? Kind of, have you watched life pass you by? I don't meet too many, and I'm sure people can show me the one person who's smokes every day and is successful. But and again, that's an in spite of, not because of argument. But I'm not seeing all these like great things happening with the people smoking all day.
Yeah.
If we look at and the goal isn't always success, right? But the goal is a well-lived life. And I don't know the people, maybe it's just me, but the people I would look up to in life, there's somebody who's like a successful family man, businessman, like a person who gives to the world and like makes the world a better place. I don't meet too many of them who are daily smokers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about weed smoker, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, when you said smoker, I thought cigarettes. Yeah.
Devil's lettuce.
Yeah, and it's with anything. You have people who are alcoholics that are functional alcoholics. My dad was one where he can actually go to work, stayed in the military as a full-blown alcoholic, drinks every day.
Right, they encourage it. They love it.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that's the route you want to take.
Right.
Because when he got out, the alcohol ravaged him because the military was almost like the buffer,
it was. I have to be here.
Yeah, and I have to be sober. But when I get off, man, when that freaking 3 o'clock or whatever the hell, I'm out and I'm getting hammered.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I feel you. I have opinions on cannabis and even alcohol. I feel that they're good that they're controlled substances, and I think I don't think they should be made illegal, but
no,
there needs to be more education on it because I don't think people understand what they're getting into.
Real education, not the dare like, oh, you're going to use marijuana once and like grow a horn and die. But actual like, oh, your motivation for life's going to kind of suck. You're going to watch everything slip away from you. There's a possibility that you could become psychotic or schizophrenic. There's, all of the actual things that happen to you and the way that it manifests itself too. Mm-hmm. Which is not like you're going to smoke it once and then become an addict. It's like, oh, well, you're going to be, in the recreational phase for a while. And then after a while, you're just going to slowly kind of move into a phase where you realize you can't do anything without it. And you're not going to know the moment it happened, but there was a moment, and now it's going to be hard to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, there's a friend of mine. He knows you. I'll just keep him nameless, but he's been smoking marijuana since high school. He stopped because he said it started making him have these crazy thoughts. Like he went years with no problem, but then he started developing these thoughts. And I remember one time he even called me while he was having the thoughts, and he was at this down the street from my house. There's a float center, like a float lab. Yeah. And he was in there, and he's like. This guy, he started thinking that the guy, like, he actually wanted me to come down to the lab. I don't know I forget what it's called. It's not Float Lab. It's one of these float centers. But he wanted me to come to the location to confirm, to help him, figure this out. And I was like, this dude's definitely blasted.
Yeah.
But he was like, the guy at the front, man, he's using the F word. He wants to F me, man. I know he's like, he wants to get me naked in this tank, dude. And I knew it, man. I could feel it. When you're talking to someone, they're telling you something, but there's a motive below or between the lines. And I'm like, I'm not about that, man. So I'm in there and I can't even relax in the float tank, dude. I ended the session early, but I'm telling you, man, it's criminal. You got to stay away from that place. And I was like, this guy's. So I spoke to him a few days later and I was like, dude, what were you? And he's like, I got to stop smoking weed, man. And he actually stopped. And he's like, but even now, it's weird. He stopped like 2 years ago. This is about 2 years ago. He's still kind of delusional still. Like he'll say things like, I don't know if this is related. I mean, it's delusional.
Yeah, a little out of touch with reality.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm about to do this big thing. Like say, I'll use a real analogy. He goes, I'm about to go do an MMA fight in about a month, so I'm going to prep. I said, sweet. In a month, when's your fight? Oh, yeah, they can't find a fighter. I can't find a fight. I said, you can't find a fight in Southern California for MMA?
Right.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no. I got, I'm going to move it back. I'm actually going to fight every month starting next month. And after about a year of that, I go, dude, you say this every month. Do you think there's... And he goes, yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but this is he's stuck in the loop. And this has been going on for years now. And I'm thinking, there's something wrong.
It just wasn't the perfect time for him to fight.
It could be that, but when I'm talking to him, dude, he's...
Right, you see the wheels
something
spinning
else.
in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's something wrong, and I even told him you should get some help. And he's like, "Well, I was thinking about going to a ayahuasca retreat."
Oh, the Great Reset, sure.
The Great Reset, and so I was like, I don't know anything about that.
I mean, yeah, and I can't put it down. I mean, I said it kind of sarcastically, but I just I just have a time constraint I got to wrap on.
Oh yeah.
Let me see. Huh.
Well, we're at almost 2.5 hours.
Are you alive? Yeah, my wife just asked me if I'm alive.
Tell her.
Never
no.
mind. We're going to Stonefire Drill. Yes, wrapping up. Don't call me.
Tell her. Hey, tell her who you're talking. So you're talking to the biggest podcast in the world right now.
We actually have this at our house because we got 4 of them on sale.
Yeah.
So she knows who you are.
One's above the toilet.
No, I have a picture of my toilet over my toilet. That's the whole art thing. You wouldn't get it. But so this guy's gonna fight. He's psychotic in some way, shape, or form. He's gonna get help. He's gonna ayahuasca. The ayahuasca thing. Everyone in rehab would be like, dude, I just need to go get on ayahuasca. I need to go to Mexico and do ayahuasca, and I'll get better.
Or bofa. Bofi.
What? Oh, I don't know Bofi.
Oh, it's the poison from the frog.
Oh, okay.
And they smoke that.
Yep. Because we all know drugs solve drug problems. I need more drugs. I don't need less drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, ayahuasca has I'm sure there's going to be some studies in the future about it and trauma and healing. And so I don't want to take that away. What I want to take away, and what I would say to the people who would tell me in rehab, like, I should just need to go to Mexico. I go, why didn't you go? If you actually believe there is a place and a chemical that will cure you, go and do it then. Like, don't waste your time here.
Stop talking to me about it.
Yeah, stop waiting for the perfect time. Go do the ayahuasca. Maybe I'll go do it then. Look, if it cures you, great. If it doesn't, I mean, you're gonna puke your guts out and have diarrhea. But go do it. That was my problem. Is they'd be like, it was just like, that's how the only way I'm gonna get sober. So then you're telling me sitting here at rehab, you're not gonna get sober. What are you doing here then? Just go to Mexico. Like, if tell your parents, buy you a ticket. Go.
Yeah.
We're in LA. Just drive. It's 2 hours away.
See, my thing about it is, I think it may work. I think there might be something there, but the way it's being used now is not proper.
The same thing happened with marijuana, and which is in order to get it legal, they made it seem like it was a cure-all to every single thing you could ever have happen to you.
Especially glaucoma.
Yeah, I don't know much about glaucoma.
I don't either, but people, I know a lot of people got medical cards.
Yeah, they'd always
said
go,
they
I
had
got
to go.
glaucoma, I got headaches, I got backaches. Right, in order for it to get legal, they had to go a lot of different routes. And what they did is they created a huge narrative that it just cured anything. You just need more marijuana. I'm like, no, marijuana has its place. It definitely helps people with wasting issues get their
Appetite back.
Look, I see there are values to it. The way that our society uses it isn't particularly valuable, but there is value to it. But then when they had to create this dialogue in order to get it made legal, and like some of the stuff is held on, and so when you're talking about ayahuasca, it's like I know that's probably what's going to happen with it. Is it cures everything? Oh, you got bunions, ayahuasca. You got cancer, ayahuasca.
Wait, you're mourning because your spouse died that you really love. Ayahuasca, like no, you're supposed to mourn.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So yeah, the way that they go about legalizing stuff, just say I like doing it.
Yeah.
We don't need to. It doesn't need to cure. It doesn't need to be. I don't need some origin story with a shaman somewhere. It's just like, yeah, I like to get fucked up, and this gets me fucked up. And we go, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't legislate people from getting fucked up. Like, let's fight that fight. And I'll be like, okay, go get fucked up on it. Have it be legal. Fine. Don't care. But don't sell me on, it cures every single thing that ever happened, and the drug companies just don't want it. Because if the drug companies really believed, like, fuck, dude, we want marijuana to stay illegal because it cures everything. Do you think the drug companies would just do that? No. What they would do is they would buy up all the marijuana, every strand of it, turn it into a medicine, and sell it back to the insurance company for billions of dollars.
Yeah, like what they're doing with peptides. But that's
what they do with everything that actually can get through the clinical trial process and show efficacy. So they're not, they're suppressing it because it cures everything. If they saw a cure-all, they would grab it. Oh, they're hiding the cure for cancer.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. If they're hiding the cure for cancer, if they had a cure for cancer, they would bring it out. It'd be $1 billion per pill.
Yeah.
And they would charge the insurance companies for it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
There is no grand Occam's razor. What's simpler is that there's all these people who created a cure for cancer, and for the betterment of humanity, and none of them have spoken up about the cure exists. Here's how you get the cure.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that. We talk about diseases, and sorry, I won't hold you up much longer here. But we talk about diseases, and I remind people, like, there's, like, even if you look at the common cold, it's been around. There's no cure. We cover the symptoms, but I don't think we've ever cured any viruses. We've inoculated against them, right? What do you call it? Taking vaccines, like polio or whatever. But there's never been, I don't think, of a virus. Now, cancer is even more aggressive than a virus. And so of these aggressive diseases, I don't think, I mean, there's always a possibility if someone knows it, but I don't know, and is being a dick about it. But for whatever reason, probably money related if it is. But I think it's not plausible that's the case.
And by the way, to say cancer is thousands of different things.
Yes.
You can have lung cancer and have a completely different type than somebody else. And the course of treatment is completely different. That's why we have compounding pharmacists. That's why they exist. So yeah, there's the cure for cancer, as if cancer is one thing.
Yeah, my ex-wife used to say prostate cancer is barely cancer if you compare it to, like, what's that one that's super deadly? Pancreatic. Yeah, he's like, dude, those are totally different freaking things.
Different fuel, different operating systems, all that. There's not this one thing. Well, there is. It's weed, but
yeah. But going back, like ayahuasca, I believe it has this place, and I think its origins, or if we could truly go back to its real origins and sift through all the bull crap, there's some truth in there.
Oh, yeah, and there's some curative properties, even emotionally. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm saying I bet you in 10 years we will have, there's ibogaine, which is the form of it, but we will have a therapy that is connected to it, and psychiatrists who are probably going to be prescribing it in a dosage probably way less than what they use now.
Or like ketamine too, like what's happening with ketamine.
Yeah, I've been part of. I need to be quiet.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, you're talking about your involvement with MK Ultra. Everyone knows about that, dude. So the thing is, but I don't agree with, like, I had a friend of mine. I've known a few people that have done bopa, the frog thing,
Okay.
and the ayahuasca in California through a traveling quote unquote shaman, but it's some guy named Chad who's from California himself,
Who
and
manages to have sex with every pretty girl who needs help with ayahuasca?
hey, centering their chakra. There's phases. Okay, that's phase 1.
Right.
Then we get to, and oh yeah, and it was so creepy. One of my friends that wanted to do the bofa was like, "Can you come just in case he doesn't do anything weird to me while I'm." You know, I was like, if you feel that way about the damn quote unquote shaman, yeah, who has a criminal record. But so the point is, I think how Americans are doing it, as we do with a lot of crap, we're just taking it way the hell wrong and using it wrong. But there is a place for it.
Therapeutic. There's probably a therapeutic dosage, a therapeutic usage for it. We're screwing it up. So I sounded cynical of it. I'm more cynical of the people who think that it is a cure-all.
Yes,
it probably is one weapon, one tool in an arsenal of things to help people.
Yeah, and one thing too, just speaking of drugs, I just got to throw this in there. This isn't a drug thing, but my niece married a guy who was older, but he's in his 40s. But he grew up country in Texas, and grandparents in the home, great grandparents. He knows his lineage all the way to slavery. Black dude, by the way. That's why I say slavery.
I was thinking Chinese railroad. Okay.
Chinese railroad, yeah. But he knows medicine. He's not a doctor. He knows treatments and stuff like Native American style from the plants. Like, she's like, you can have a cut. He's like, hold on. And he can get stuff. It'll work like Neosporin. She goes, where's this knowledge? And I think it was lost when we screwed over, not we, the United States government screwed over the Native Americans. But there's so much medicine that's domestic that is not around.
Well, that's what all pills essentially are. There's some kind of plant that we figured out, and then we synthesized it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So he just has knowledge of the most raw form of the plant. And yeah, medicines are a very important part of the Native American culture. I was a guest of the San Manuel tribe to do some work with them, and so they had me go through like a acculturation program on their reservation. But it's not a reservation. It is amazing. Like, it's just beautiful. I mean,
we'll call it a resort.
I wasn't at Yamava, which is their resort, which means spring, because they were opening it right when I was there. So I got to go to the opening too. But it's near Yamava in Highland, and it is it's amazing. But when I went there, a big part of their culture is medicines, right? Is there people passing on medicine knowledge and the medicines for both the physical and the soul, and so we definitely wiped away a lot of that with our colonialism and manifest destiny, because they carried a rich tradition of medicine.
Yeah, and I think some of that information got to the slaves. Because he knows, like, my niece just blows me away. And I told him, dude, you should write a book. We should put a book together with these recipes, because he's treated her cold, made the cough go away. It's just like taking cough syrup. But it's all
right, like
plants.
Menthol and
Yeah, and I'm just blown away by it. We're so industrialized now. We're house cats. Yes. We can't make it outside. Make it on the outside. But hey, I know you got to run. Thanks again for coming. Problem. And dude, I just really appreciate it, man. You taking the time to do this, because you're probably you are the busiest guest I have. Like, I'm talking career wise.
Yeah, I got
and Disneyland season pass wise.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I got the young daughter. I've got 3 jobs. I work in the psychiatry and drug treatment world, and then I have my own private practice, and then I still teach jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then I have a daughter and a wife and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, hey, before you cut out, is there anything you'd like to plug or share?
Budo Videos, BUDO videos.com. You can go ahead and find my instructionals on there. I don't know how much crossover this has to the jiu-jitsu world, but I still want to plug them. And they have a lot of great designs now on hoodies and gear too. So that is my plug. Maybe Grappler Studios as well, where I teach at.
Do they have a website?
Yes, they do, and I would just look up Grappler Studio on Google in Laguna Hills.
Okay, Grappler City.
Grappler Studio in Laguna Hills.
God at Grappler Studio in Laguna Hills. Well, I'll tie it in. When you get off drugs, when not you, a person gets off of drugs or trying to break an addiction habit, isn't it always good to replace that habit with a hobby or something to do?
Sublimation is what we call it. It is good for them to find something to do with their energy as long as they don't turn that new thing into addiction, like working out, because even working out can become harmful.
Yes.
So we have to get to the core reason why they need to do everything to excess.
Yes. Well, jiu-jitsu, I'll recommend, I can't speak on you,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming you would agree. Give it a try.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, or anything, take that time and invest it into jiu-jitsu. Me, I've been doing it jiu-jitsu at this point most of my life. It's worked wonders, kept me in good shape. Yeah, it's a great thing.
I agree.
But so thanks again for coming out. I appreciate it, bro.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks.